Good morning, ladies and gentlemen, and welcome to the August 4th, 2022 State Board of Education meeting. I'm Eric Davis, Chair of the Board, and I call this meeting to order. Delighted to welcome all board members and advisors, staff, on-site visitors, online listeners, and Twitter followers. Remember to follow the North Carolina State Board of Education on Twitter at EDStateBoard_NC. I remind the audience and those listening that this body meets monthly with its official meeting scheduled for the first Thursday of the month. Committee meetings are typically held on Wednesday prior to the official meeting day, as we did yesterday. A reminder to on-site visitors and online listeners that you can follow the meeting online and see all of our materials by going to SBE meetings at www.ncpublicschools.org. Board members, you're reminded that it's our duty to avoid conflicts of interest, and the appearance of conflicts of interest as we have to work with this board. Does any member of the board know of any conflict of interest or any appearance of conflict with respect to any matters coming before us in this meeting? If so, please state them for the record. During the course of the meeting, you become aware of an actual or apparent conflict of interest. Please bring the matter to the attention of the chair, and then be your duty to abstain from participating in discussion on the matter and from voting on the matter. This time I call on my colleague, Lindell Hall, to lead us in the Pledge of Allegiance.
Mr. Chair, may we stand? This is the pledge of allegiance to the flag of the United States of America, and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Thank you.
We now come to our special recognitions, a time on our agenda when we recognize significant awards, resolutions, and particularly those who make a difference in the lives of the public school students we serve each day. We are honored to begin our special recognitions with the 2022 United States Senate Youth Scholarship recipient recognitions, followed by the Presidential Awards for Excellence in Mathematics and Science. And I'll turn to Dr. Day for this recognition.
Good morning. The Office of Academic Standards is pleased to present three very exciting recognitions this morning. First, we celebrate two amazing students who have received the 2022 United States Senate Youth Scholarship. Dr. Lori Major Carlin will have the honor of introducing these awardees. Next, we will recognize several incredible mathematics and science educators who have been named finalists for the 2022 Presidential Awards for Excellence in Mathematics and Science Teaching. In addition, we will celebrate the 2020 Presidential Awards for Excellence in Mathematics and Science Teaching awardees. Mr. Joseph Reaper will have the honor of recognizing these inspiring educators. We will kick it off with Dr. Carlin.
Thank you, and good morning. It is my honor to be here once again to present these Senate Youth students. This is an amazing program, and as I begin, I would be remiss if I didn't acknowledge my colleague, Michelle McLaughlin, who runs this program for us at NCDPI. So a reminder that the Senate Youth Program is a highly competitive program based on leadership and merit. Our agency selects 2 delegates after a rigorous interview process. They have presentations, and they also have to take a national test to achieve recognition. So these 2 students receive a $10,000 scholarship for undergraduate studies and will attend a week-long summit with their peers from other states. So the first student we're going to introduce is Isaac Carrero. He is a recent graduate of the Wayne School of Engineering at Goldsboro High School. As a very involved student of Wayne County Schools, Isaac served as president of the Key Club and as his high school's class president. During his junior and senior years in high school, he served as a volunteer tutor at one of the local middle schools in Wayne County. Isaac organized and started the process of implementing a tutoring program across Wayne County that serves Latinx students. He also volunteers and continues to work with migrant children needing tailored assistance and guidance as they seek to navigate and integrate into the American school system. Isaac hopes to study law and serve in some aspect of the American government. He believes the United States Senate Youth Program experiences he's been a part of will enable him to better understand government systems and politics, as well as give him unique perspectives to help guide him in his plans to have a career in the field of political science and law. Isaac feels representing North Carolina as a Senate Youth Delegate has allowed him to further understand the significance of and need to continue being an engaged citizen who serves and gives back meaningfully to the community. In the fall, Isaac will begin his post-secondary studies as a freshman attending NC State as a Park Scholar. Isaac plans to study political science. Chairman Davis and members of the North Carolina State Board of Education, State Superintendent Catherine Truitt, and the K-12 Social Studies section at DPI present Mr. Isaac Carino, North Carolina winner of the 2022 United States Senate Youth Scholarship. Isaac.
Thank you, everybody, and good morning. I'm so deeply honored to have been selected as one of 2 scholars across the entire state to receive this award. This award and recognition is about service and leadership and a deep passion of government, policy, and politics. But it is also about ensuring that the young people of this great nation are aware of and educated in all matters about government. Now, as I prepare to go on to college and begin my journey ahead, I will continue to uphold the pillars of this great program, the pillars of the United States Senate Youth Program that are to lead and to serve. I want to continue to serve my community, to lead in wherever I am, and also to work toward ensuring that young people are empowered to make their voices heard, to be engaged in, and to be educated about everything. And I'm so excited to be entered into the Alumni Network of the United States Senate Youth Program and be just one of many scholars across the nation and throughout the years that have been working toward making this goal a reality. Thank you.
And virtually, we have Amaya Rivera, a student at Northeast Academy for Aerospace and Advanced Technologies in Elizabeth City, North Carolina. She serves as an executive director for the #IMCS Summit, a NCDPI computer science program initiative. Amaya mentors middle school students and is the author of a children's book. She's an advocate for students with special needs and as a part of a competition with Harvard University, has written educational policies bringing attention to those needs. With drastic changes in the pandemic, the drastic changes the pandemic has created in education and social lives for young students, Amaya is instrumental in leading a week-long event discussing the importance of student mental health and the struggle many have with stressors they've never faced. She works to amplify youth voices and encourages youth in her school and community to become involved in public service. Amaya believes the U.S. Senate Youth Program experience will help her learn more about governmental processes and how to effectively turn the knowledge she is learning in school into positive and productive citizen action. Amaya plans to have a future dedicated to public service. In the fall, Amaya will begin her senior year at the Northeast Academy for Aerospace and Advanced Technologies in Elizabeth City. Chairman Davis and members of the North Carolina State Board of Education, State Superintendent Catherine Truitt, and the K-12 Social Studies section at DPI present Ms. Amaya Rivera, a North Carolina winner for the 2022 United States Senate Youth Scholarship.
Thank you all for being here today. Yes. And for this recognition. In regards to my speech, I would like to give some shout outs and then some thank yous. I want to give a shout out to Ms. Evans, who told me she would be in the audience in person today. And I want to give a shout out to the empowering legacy that the multiple family members of my family tree have provided me, as these legacies have motivated me to always pursue my goals. And that moves me into my thank yous. Firstly, I want to say thank you to my fellow USSYP delegates and my assigned military mentor. All these individuals I still keep actively in touch with today, And one of the reasons for this being is because their drive and encouragement have empowered me to always think big. And to pursue a decision that I've been contemplating for quite some time, which is to join the United States Air Force after college. And last but of course not least, I want to give a huge thank you to everyone who makes the United States Senate Youth Program possible in North Carolina. As impactful programs like these and being accessible to rural students like me provides an opportunity to experience a truly invaluable civic exploration experience. And I'm truly thankful for that. Thank you all.
And you all will get to see my person next month. So thank you so much for the opportunity to celebrate these outstanding young people.
I think you please come, if your family's here, we'd love to have them join you.
Good morning, Superintendent Truman, Chairman Davis, Vice Chairman Duncan, State Board of Education members, and guests. The Presidential Awards for Excellence in Mathematics and Science Teaching, also known as PACE, are the highest honors bestowed by the United States government specifically for K-12 science, technology, engineering, mathematics, and/or computer science teaching. These awards were established by Congress in 1983, and the President may recognize up to 108 exemplary teachers each year. The awards are given to science, technology, engineering, math, and science and/or computer science teachers from each of the 50 states, the District of Columbia, the Commonwealth of Puerto Rico, and our DUDIA activity schools, and also our U.S. territories. The award recognizes those teachers who have deep content knowledge of the subjects they teach and have the ability to motivate students and enable students to be successful in those areas. Since the program's inception, more than 4,800 teachers have been recognized for their contributions in the classroom and their profession. Awardees reflect the expertise and dedication to the nation's teaching corps. They demonstrate the positive impact of excellent teachers on student achievement. The National Science Foundation administrates PACE on behalf of the White House Office of Science and Technology Policy. In North Carolina, we have recognize 102 teachers as being national awardees, with 51 teachers in the area of math and 51 in the area of science. The awardees represent every region, school size, and school type in the state. To begin with, we are going to recognize the 2022 finalists. Of the 6 finalists that we are going to recognize here today, 2 of them will eventually be named as awardees. Our first finalist is Rebecca Christ from Stedman Elementary School, Cumberland County Schools. Our second finalist is Kimberly Inman from Pinnacle Classical Academy in Shelby, North Carolina. Our third finalist, and this was in the area of mathematics, is Nardi Roten from Creekside Elementary School, Craven County Schools. So those were our 3 math finalists, and now our 3 science finalists. Our first science finalist is Adam Haas from Rocky River Elementary School, Union County Public Schools. Our second science finalist is Carrie Lawley from Walter G. Breyer School, Charlotte Mecklenburg Schools. And guest. All right, and our final finalist in the science area is Susan Merrill from Moorhead Elementary School at Camp Glen, Carteret County School System. And these are our 6 finalists for 2022.
Yes, feel free to come forward.
And for the second part of our recognition, we do want to recognize today our 2020 awardees. And so you might be thinking, well, that's 2 years ago. It is, but if you've ever worked with the White House, you know that sometimes it can get a little bit behind. And so This happens kind of every year to us. So we are here to recognize our 2020 awardees, which were announced just a few months ago. As an awardee of it, they receive a trip to Washington, D.C., a certificate signed by the President of the United States, and of course they get to mingle in D.C. with a lot of the top people in the government and in the White House. They also receive a cash reward of $10,000. All right, so the first awardee that we would like to recognize is Sarah Rimmery from Trindale Elementary School, Randolph County Schools. And our second awardee, sadly, cannot be with us here today. She is actually, hopefully, has just landed in Singapore. She is also being recognized by the Borough's Welcome Fund and is actually over there participating in professional development. So when we're talking about our awardees and finalists, we're talking about the best in the state. All right, and that was Miss Andy Webb from Forest Hills Global Elementary School from New Hanover County Schools.
I just love it when we recognize the great teachers we have in North Carolina. I can't tell who's prouder, their principal or their superintendent. They're like newly created parents with holding their precious child when teachers recognized, and we so appreciate the teachers, principals, and the superintendents. At this time, I'll turn to Dr. Petrie Martin for a special part of our meeting today, which is recognizing our 2022-23 State Board of Education advisors. Petrie Martin.
Good morning to the chair, vice chair, superintendent, to our board members, and to all those assembled. Of course, it is always an honor this time of year to recognize our new State Board of Education advisors. The first one that we want to recognize today is the A. Craig Phillips, North Carolina Superintendent of the Year, Dr. Valerie Bridges. Dr. Bridges is the superintendent of Edgecombe County Public Schools. She has served as an associate and assistant superintendent in Edgecombe and Washington County Schools. Before working in the eastern region of North Carolina, she worked in Guilford County Schools and Wake County Public Schools as a high school teacher, middle school assistant principal, and an elementary principal. She has a bachelor's in accounting from UNCW. She has a master's in business administration from Meredith College. She received her teaching certificate from St. Augustine's University, and she received her master's in school administration and a doctorate in educational leadership from NC State. Let's welcome, as one of our new board advisors, Dr. Valerie Bridges. You will go up for your formal photo as well as a few tokens of appreciation. At this time, it is also an honor to recognize the Wells Fargo, North Carolina Principal of the Year, Dr. Patrick Green. I know that Dr. Brown will come up and give additional introductions, but to learn a little bit about Dr. Green, he grew up in eastern North Carolina and attended East Carolina University as a North Carolina teaching fellow. He returned to his home school, Farmville Central, to teach social studies and to coach. 4 years later, he returned to East Carolina to earn his Master's of School Administration degree as part of the North Carolina Principal Fellows Program. And he began his administrative experience as an assistant principal in Greenville, North Carolina, and then on to a principal position at Green Early College High School, and now he is currently the principal of Green Central High School. Let's welcome our Principal of the Year, Dr. Green. And next, we have our final new board advisor, Leah Carper, who is the 2022 Burrs Welcome Fund North Carolina Teacher of the Year. She has been a high school English teacher for Guilford County Schools since 2006. She earned an associate's degree from Davidson County Community College, a bachelor's degree in secondary English education from the University of North Carolina at Greensboro, and a master's degree in educational leadership from Queen's University of Charlotte. She has a North Carolina teaching license as well as a North Carolina principal's license. She has served on various commissions on the state level, including the NC Educator Effectiveness and Compensation Task Force and the NCTP3 Principal Fellows Commission. Let's welcome our Teacher of the Year, Leah Carper. Again, we thank all of our new State Board of Education advisors.
Next up, I think, is Dr. Brown.
Thank you, Chairman Davis, Superintendent Truitt, and others on the State Board. Good morning. My name is Sonia Brown. I'm the chair of the State Recognition Teacher and Principals of the Year program, but I would like to give you just a little bit about both of them. The Teacher of the Year and the Principal of the Year programs are high-profile events for the agency, and since 1970 and 1984, respectively, the department, along with corporate sponsors, have facilitated these programs recognizing outstanding educators. Both programs are statewide services provided by the Office of District and Regional Support. The selection process is facilitated in each region by a region educational facilitator, they're commonly known as the REFs, and the journey for all of this starts at the school level, then eventually progresses to the district level, and then to the regional level. These programs normally reach their pinnacle in April and May at the formal naming ceremonies. First up, Teacher of the Year program. Since 1970, North Carolina has recognized outstanding teachers through the Teacher of the Year program. The mission of the Burroughs Wellcome Fund North Carolina Teacher of the Year is to promote the profession through advocacy and support while recognizing quality teaching professionals implementing best practices within classrooms across North Carolina. First, individuals are chosen to represent their respective schools as Teacher of the Year. Then they advance to compete at the district level. Then individual charter schools nominate Teachers of the Year who participate in a selection process facilitated by the Office of the Charter Schools. Charter schools are clustered together to form the 9th region of the state. After the district and charter school nomination processes are completed, the state selection process continues with each regional finalist being interviewed and his or her portfolio reviewed by a state selection committee. The Burroughs Wellcome Fund Teacher of the Year program serves as the North Carolina ambassador for the state school teachers. The Teacher of the Year serves in an advisory capacity to the State Board of Education for a 2-year term and serves on the Board of Directors of the North Carolina Public School Forum. The Burroughs Wellcome Fund serves as the major sponsor for this program, along with other sponsorships from the North Carolina Department of Public Instruction, North Carolina State Athletics, Blow Automotive, No Kid Hungry, Bojangles, Lenovo, Go Global, and Equitable Advisors. Now, I present to you from Northern Guilford High School, the 2022 Burroughs Wellcome Fund North Carolina Teacher of the Year, Ms. Leah Carper.
Chair Davis, Vice Chair Duncan, Superintendent Truitt, members of the Board of Education, my fellow advisors, and all of these awesome guests, it is my honor to introduce to you, today only, the 2022 Burroughs Wellcome Fund North Carolina Regional Teacher of the Year team. After spending time with this incredibly talented, dynamic, and eager group of educators, I was overwhelmed with excitement and gratitude for the privilege that I have to work with them. With over 100 years of collective teaching experience, this team has accepted the call to be teacher leaders not only in just their regions, but across the entire state, from the mountains to the coast. We plan to work together to collect stories, amplify voices, and share solutions that will benefit the 1.5 million public school students of North Carolina. The truth is, though, this collaborative team dynamic, y'all are going to feel it here, okay? This collaborative team dynamic that we have would not have been made possible without the example and the path blazed by the 2021 Burroughs Wellcome Fund North Carolina Regional Teacher of the Year team, led by the visionary leadership and the incomparable Eugenia Floyd. Thank you, Eugenia, and to your team for preparing the way for us to be able to actualize the goals that we have as we take on this role. Ladies and gentlemen, boys and girls of all ages, please allow me to introduce to you the 2022 Burroughs Wellcome Fund North Carolina Regional Teacher of the Year team. Representing the just kidding, not going to do that. Representing the Northeast region is high school English teacher Clinton Todd. We have to all stand. From our Southeast region, high school English teacher Abby Starling Noble. Representing the North Central Region is High School Social Studies teacher Brian Link. And proudly representing the Sand Hills region is the Middle School Intervention Specialist Elizabeth Santamore. From our Southwest region is Elementary School Service Learning teacher Ashton Berry. Coming to us from our Northwest region is high school math teacher Ashley Bandy, who's on an airplane right now. Waving us down. From the Western region is second grade teacher Ryan Mitchell. Our charter school representative is high school Spanish teacher Keegan Stores. We have two more very important members of our team. Our virtual teacher of the year through North Carolina Virtual Public Schools is our adaptive curriculum English teacher, Miss Angela Haynes. And rounding out this 2022 North Carolina Teacher of the Year team is our beginning Teacher of the Year. That is our high school social studies teacher, Xavier Adams, who's speaking at APP today. And I'm Leah Carper. I'm a high school English teacher who represents the Piedmont Triad region. Together, we are your 2022 Burroughs Welcome Fund North Carolina Regional Teacher of the Year team. Woo!
Next up, the Wells Fargo Principal of the Year. The Wells Fargo Principal of the Year Award was introduced in 1984 to recognize the role of the principal in establishing an environment conducive to the pursuit and achievement of academic excellence in North Carolina schools. This foundation sponsors the award in conjunction with the North Carolina Department of Public Instruction. Since the inception of the program, there have been 42 Wells Fargo, North Carolina Principals of the Year, 281 regional award recipients, and 3,549 local Wells Fargo Principals of the Year. The Principal of the Year program recognizes principals also at the district, the regional, and statewide levels. The local process begins with each school system selecting one principal as its local Wells Fargo Principal of the Year. The selection process at the district level is the responsibility of the district superintendent or designee. The person chosen as the local Wells Fargo Principal of the Year represents his or her school system in the regional selection process. The regional selection process includes an evaluation of the candidate through a portfolio review and an interview. 8 regional finalists participate in the state selection process. The state selection process continues with each regional finalist being interviewed and his or her portfolio reviewed by a state selection committee as well. And this year we were able to add the charter schools as a recipient of this award. The Wells Fargo Principal of the Year serves as the North Carolina Ambassador for the state schools principals. The Principal of the Year serves in an advisory capacity to the State Board of Education for a 2-year term and serves on the Board of Directors of the North Carolina Public School Forum. Wells Fargo serves as the major sponsor for this program, along with No Kid Hungry, Johnston's, Education First, and Equitable Advisors. Now I present to you from Green Central High School and Greene County School District, the 2022 Wells Fargo North Carolina Principal of the Year, Dr. Patrick Green. Dr. Green.
Good morning, Chair Davis, Vice Chair Duncan, Superintendent Truitt, and members of the board. Before I begin my introductions, I would like to formally request that throughout the remainder of this year, I get to go before Leah. There is absolutely no following her energy. Just want to put that out there. The teachers should get the light anyway. I do have the privilege of introducing the regional principals of the year, but before I do, I would like to express my gratitude for being a member of this team. It has been an amazing experience already getting to know these school leaders and the tremendous things that they have done in their schools, particularly over the last 2 years when it has been some of the most difficult work we have ever seen. This team encompasses 176 years of educational experience, 103 of which have been administrative. They do some absolutely amazing things, and in addition to leading their schools, we look to champion causes like school safety, student and staff mental health through social and emotional learning, teacher support and staff retention through the expansion of the teacher pipeline, and trauma-informed teaching and restorative practices in all of our schools. These issues are vitally important to us and to the teachers that we serve and lead daily. And now at this time, I would like to introduce our regional team. From the Northeast region, Allison Covington, principal at South Greenville Elementary School, Pitt County Schools. From the North Central region, Keith Richardson, principal at Knightdale High School, Wake County Schools. From the Sandhills region, Antonio Covington, principal at East Hope Middle School, Hope County Schools. Not able to be with us today from the Piedmont Triad is Katrinka Brown, principal at Northeast Guilford High School, Guilford County Schools. Also not with us today because she's participating in the National Special Olympics program, Lorinda Denin, principal at Idlewild Elementary School, Charlotteburg-Mecklenburg. From the Northwest region, Dr. Heather Freeman, principal at Wilkes Central High School, Wilkes County Schools. Marsha Justice, principal at Edneyville Elementary School, Henderson County Schools. And also not able to be with us today, Maria Mills, principal at Carolina Charter Academy. Ready, team?
Yes, sir. The principal's up front, and we'll squeeze everybody else in.
Thank you, Dr. Brown, and we appreciate the opportunity to honor teachers, principals, and all those who make a difference in our students' lives every day. Today we recognize some of our superintendents, and today I see a couple more. I would like to recognize Dr. Barry Williams from Gates County, and I think I see Rob Jackson running around back there somewhere too, Dr. Jackson. So if you're a sitting superintendent, would you mind standing so we'd like to recognize you as well, all the superintendents. This time we'll take a 10-minute break and be back around 10 o'clock. 10 o'clock. We are back in session. So we're back in session, and during the break, I happened to learn that of our principals of the year, 3 of them are leading restart schools. I thought that was once again, principals and teachers across this state doing the hard work for the benefit of our students. So appreciate you. Now we'll turn to Superintendent Truitt for the state superintendent's report.
Thank you, Chair Davis, and good morning to my colleagues around the table and in the audience. I'm really excited to be here with everyone and have lots to share this morning. I want to start by just commenting that people often ask me, so have things slowed down now that it's summer? And we as educators all know that is never the case. So the answer is no, things have not slowed down, but that's okay because the work is great. So I'm going to start off by welcoming a new member to the North Carolina Department of Education Senior Leadership Team. As many of you know, Dr. Derek Jordan has been promoted to Deputy Superintendent. I'm going to wave to everybody, Dr. Jordan. And that left us with some big shoes to fill. And so I had already had some conversations with Dr. Andrew Smith, who is someone that I've known for many years with work that I've done in Rowan Salisbury schools with Dr. Lynn Moody, who is no stranger to the people in this room. So Dr. Smith is now the Assistant Superintendent of Innovation. He is a former Rowan Salisbury School CAO and Strategic Planning Officer. And when I first got to know him, he was working on what was then an incredibly forward-thinking and unique digital learning initiative. And they were one of the early adopters along with a few of our other rural counties. And so he, most recently, has been helping lead the state's only renewal district. And so we're excited about the innovation that he is going to bring. He's also adjunct faculty in the College of Education at Johns Hopkins. And I know that he is going to bring fresh thinking, and in fact, he already has, to the team at DPI. I'm amazed at, I think he's been on the job for 5 weeks, is that right? Yeah. It's like he's been here for a year already. So join me in welcoming Dr. Andrew Smith. Excellent. Thank you. So I'm really excited to share with you that the 48 selected members of the Parent Advisory Council were announced last month, or I should say in June. And all parents accepted the offer that was made to them to serve. We did have one parent reach back and let us know that due to some unanticipated needs with her child that she would not be able to serve, and we had an alternate ready to go, and that person has accepted that role. So 6 parents and guardians were selected from each region. We had over 3,000 applicants, and when we say applicants, we mean people who started the application process. They clicked on the link, they started the application process, and submitted some kind of an application. So at that point, there was a team that I shared with this board from within the department who were responsible for evaluating 896 applications. So out of the 3,000 plus applications that were submitted, that team went through and eliminated incomplete applications. So they had left answers blank or had not included their address or did not attest to the state, those applications were eliminated. The 896 applications were then narrowed down to 150 applications, which then came to me that I reviewed personally. So as a reminder, parents will serve a 2-year term that begins this fall. Our first full meeting will be in person on September 15th, and then we will have regional subgroups that will meet virtually. And the in-person meeting will also have a virtual option. And the intention is for the full commission to convene quarterly in person, but also with a virtual option. One of the things that I'm really excited about is that people who submitted an application are now part of a listserv that they can opt out of if they would like, but if they want to continue to receive emails specific to the council, they can do that. So we're developing the agenda right now for the September 15th meeting, but meeting agendas will be posted prior to the meeting. There will be a recap of regional meetings posted after, and the list of parents selected for the commission can be found on our website already. So this is just a screen grab of what the website looks like right now. So one of the things that I'd like to share before I move on about the process of looking through the 150 applicants was that one of the questions that we asked people on the application to respond to was, who is ultimately responsible for a child's education? And I can tell you that we got responses that ranged from everything from the government has no business in my child's education to the government is responsible for my child's education, and everything in between. And I am excited to share that that everything in between is what is represented on this council. There are a wide variety of opinions about education, about another question we asked was, what do you see as the biggest opportunities in education right now? So reading those applications was an interesting endeavor in and of itself. I will also share that of the people selected, we have, so out of the 48, 8 are parents of students with special needs that range from everything from dyslexia to autism to cerebral palsy. We have 1 military family represented on the commission. We have the parent of a student who attends a dual language program at her elementary school, and then we have 2 foster parents who are part of this group. We did one interesting thing that we're going to pay attention to the next time around in 2 years is the fact that while we offered the application in Spanish, we did not have a single applicant complete the form, complete the Spanish language form. So that's something that we want to pay attention to. The other interesting thing is that we had, I would say, only about 4% of the applications were completed by men. So the women are definitely disproportionately represented on this parent group. It was also interesting, again, to keep in mind for the future, that in the western part of the state, we don't have a lot of charter schools in the western part of the state. So we had low numbers of applicants to choose from charter schools. So that might be something that we think about next time. But again, very excited about the listserv and very excited about the fact that a lot of the parents who represent either homeschool families or private school families also have children in the same household who attend traditional public schools. So there's a lot to dig into there about what's happening in families where one child is homeschooled or goes to a private school and another child attends a neighborhood public high school. So I look forward to sharing the agenda when it is complete. It will be posted online, and that will move on to workforce summaries. So next slide, please. So back in February, our career technical education directors and administrators gave, at that conference, gave real-time feedback on the agency's workforce goals, the four workforce goals that I presented several months ago. And we also, so not only did they inform those workforce goals, but we also had put out a survey, which one of the results of which was that our CTE directors and teachers felt that a toolkit would be really helpful for parents. So everyone in this room hears frequently that we need more of this kind of worker or that kind of worker. And are we doing a disservice to our students by saying that the only pathway to middle class is through a 4-year residential degree right after high school? And so what we heard was that, next slide please, that if we could produce a toolkit for not just teachers but for parents also, that talks about things like what jobs are available, how much they pay, where those jobs are, that parents might find value in this. And so, next slide please. We are finished with a really easy to use, user-friendly toolkit that we are going to be sending to the field soon that will communicate all 3 pathways: college, including 2- and 4-year colleges, career, and military, to students and their parents, as well as to teachers and counselors. And you can see here, we're going to send it to district PIOs and all of those groups. It will have an FAQ section, it will have flyer, graphic, and there will be a social media campaign. And if you look on the next slide, you kind of see a sneak peek. It's really lifting up this idea that all students are on a journey, and that journey doesn't end when they cross the graduation stage. We don't want to have any students who are graduating from high school who are not able to articulate some kind of plan for after high school. We have so many students who, 72% of students, in fact, at the beginning of their senior year will express an intent to enroll in a 4-year college. But we all know that that's not the reality. That's not what ends up happening. We know that actually only 23% of our students get a 4-year degree by the time they're 24. So, and we also know that only 31% are obtaining any kind of workforce credential by the time they are 24 years old. And that includes those who get a 4-year degree. So we have an 87% high school graduation rate, and yet only 31% are getting any kind of workforce credential of value by the time they're 24 years old. So that's kind of the impetus behind helping parents and counselors and teachers see what are the top 5 fastest growing job sectors in our state. We've got 70,000 jobs in IT that go unfilled every year now in North Carolina. It used to be 50,000, now it's 70,000. We can help all students get on a career path. And then the next slide is just more sneak peek of what these graphics will look like. Next, I just wanted to share a couple of events that I had the privilege to attend. On this next slide, I was invited to speak at the CTE Summer Conference, which was a really well-attended conference. And you see me sitting here with Kayla, who came before the board because she is a U.S. Presidential Scholar in CTE from North Carolina. So she and her mom came to the CTE Summer Conference, and she gave an incredible speech that, again, just like we heard Isaac this morning, really helps us to know that we are preparing kids to do great things when they graduate. You're going to be hearing more in the coming months about our AP Accelerator program, which has been co-led by the agency's own Tamari Wallace and Shirley Prince of NC Papa. The AP Accelerator program is a program for assistant principals who typically spend 3 to 5 years in the role. We want our assistant principals to be ready to assume principalships. And we want them to have a great start with coaching and professional development and leadership from those who are already in the field. And that's what that day was about. So it was really an honor to get in front of that group and just talk to them about what's happening at the department and address their questions and concerns as well. Next is something that I'm so excited to share that has happened. As this board knows, back in February or March, I believe, the Office of Learning Recovery, led by Dr. Marr, presented our state's learning loss report, which is to say that we did a population study, not a sample, but a population study, one of its first of its kind in the nation, report using student growth data, partnered with the EVOS team at SAS to create a report that identified for all students in the state where the learning loss was the greatest. And we've shared that already, so I won't go into the specifics of that. But what is amazing about that report is that we gave that data to superintendents and to principals, and it is part of the EVOS data page that they can all access. And we invited them to a meeting that SAS was kind enough to provide space for us to host. And the OLR team, as well as several other folks from DPI, we broke all of our districts into ARP-like appropriation cohorts. So in other words, Charlotte-Mecklenburg schools got $100 million from the ARP that they need to spend, and I think Scotland County got $15 million. So rather than bring people in geographically, we arranged groups according to like appropriations. And so Dr. Bridges was kind enough to be a co-host across the 3 days. We had one cohort at a time come, and they were able to see a presentation from SAS's EVOS team about how to best leverage that data so that they can start looking at the interventions that match the needs of their students. Because not all districts have the same needs, and not all schools have the same needs. So it was attended by all districts except, I think, 5. And the feedback was overwhelmingly positive that these district leaders felt like they had a handle on this data such that they could really start to see how to best spend these dollars. And finally, about 2 weeks ago, the Financial Business Services statewide summer conference was held in Durham. And Alexis Schaus, our CFO, was kind enough to invite me to come and speak. And that was about 300 finance professionals from across the state. We heard yesterday how important our finance professionals are to our districts and how key they are to assisting our local superintendents in doing their jobs. And so it was really an honor to get to speak to a group that don't so it was really an honor to be able to share with them how important they are to the mission of providing an excellent education to 1.5 million public school children in our state. And that, Mr. Chair, is my report.
Questions from my colleagues? Dr. Arnson.
Council that is in America. Give me some sense of the agenda for the next year in school and if they want to look at the generating students.
They are going to generate those outcomes. That's our first meeting. I would anticipate that I've been thinking about this a lot, and I think one of the things that's really important for this group to know is to get sort of a primer on what governance looks like in our state, how the state board and the department function together, how is that different from local boards, how is it similar to local boards. I think that there's sort of a baseline knowledge that I would want them to have before we start developing topics.
Seeing no others comments, we'll move on to, thank you, Superintendent. We'll move on to our issue session. This is an opportunity for the board to not only fulfill professional development requirements, but it's also an opportunity for us to get a deeper dive into issues that are of great interest to us, as well as engage in discussions. And today we're delighted to have two opportunities in that arena. First, with our focus on literacy, we have Dr. Amy Ryan. Dr. Ryan.
Good morning, Chair Davis, Vice Chair Duncan, Superintendent Truitt, members of the board, colleagues, and stakeholders. As you have already heard, the North Carolina General Assembly approved recurring funding to support hiring 8 literacy facilitators, as well as 115 early literacy specialists and 1 lead position to support the implementation and sustainability of science and reading and for all across North Carolina. Before I update you on our additional specifics, I would like to begin the presentation with Dr. Kenyatta Berg, who successfully led the implementation of our literacy coaches in Mississippi. Dr. Burke is serving as Excel and Ed's Senior Policy Fellow for Early Literacy and joining us remotely. And thank you for joining us today, Dr. Burke.
Good morning. Thank you so much for having me. I want to first start by saying it's been fantastic to partner with North Carolina, with Superintendent Truitt, her staff, and also, of course, with Amy and her office, as we just really work together and collaboratively to support North Carolina's educators. So I'll start first by just talking a bit about how Mississippi, over the past 9 years, it's been a while, has implemented its coaching model. So this is the Mississippi story. Next slide. In Mississippi, we continue to have a comprehensive approach to improving student outcomes. So many of these things that are on this slide that are part of our Literacy-Based Promotion Act strategies and approach are included in North Carolina's Excellent Public Schools Act legislation. So in our approach, of course, educator training, all levels, including our educator preparation programs, we are still at a point where we really kind of envy North Carolina for including higher ed on the front end in your legislation and the requirements and the collaboration with higher ed and how we have to begin to see higher ed in K-12 outcomes. We need to be able to see that it's all a part of the process and that we all should support educators together. So we have trained our educator prep program faculty, a cohort of faculty, but then also we've offered training in letters directly to some of our ed prep candidates who wanted to take letters training on their own, so we were able to offer training to them. So of course, having that common language for what it means to teach reading has been extremely important in the foundation of in the beginning, our implementation of our law. Next, of course, is what we're going to talk about in depth today, which will be the coaching for our teachers, ensuring that once our educators receive this knowledge, that they have coaches who are on site to assist them in transferring that knowledge into practice and to really hold them accountable for doing that, but to hold them accountable in a way that they're building those relationships and also being a support and a resource for teachers during that process. Next, early identification of students. When I first started in 2013, we did a survey of the universal screeners that were being used across the state. And in about 144 districts, we had 117 different screeners being used. Now we have a list of 6. So making sure that we are not just identifying students early, but that we're using the right tools and instruments to give us the data that we need. Next, parental communication. It's extremely important for parents to know early and often, and of course to be a part of that process where we are looking to provide support and interventions to students, which leads us to individual reading plans, making sure that we're documenting the supports that we're providing for students, and then also if interventions aren't working, not waiting, and ensuring that we are making those changes immediately to provide different interventions to make sure that we're addressing students' needs. And then we have the retention component in Mississippi. We also like to urge, all of our stakeholders who talk about our retention component is that our focus is on prevention and intervention, not retention. Retention is a last resort for those students who have received all of these things, right? Who've received these supports beginning in kindergarten, but by the end of 3rd grade, they do not meet the CUP score or qualify for the clause exemptions, then those students will be retained for another year, a different year with more intensive supports. I do want to say that some things that we don't talk about when we talk about all of these components of our literacy law are also the other things that were occurring during that time, which was we did adopt the Common Core State Standards, which we can no longer say. There are Mississippi College and Career Readiness Standards. During the same time, we were training teachers in those standards, much more rigorous than the standards we had previously in our state. And then also we adopted an assessment, a more rigorous statewide assessment suite that is more aligned to NAEP. So all of those things were happening when we began our journey in 2013. Next slide. So these are our NAEP results. And I think I've been hanging out with your N&C reporters too long because now I love headlines, right? So, these are just some headlines from our 2019 NAEP gains that we were able to experience, our improvement on NAEP. But I want to really point your attention to the first one that says STAR NAEP showing follows a loan commitment. And that's one thing that I really want to stress, that you will begin to see as you are on this journey, and I know that this is a continuation of the journey that you begin with your Read to Achieve law, but as you are on this journey, you will begin to see gains that are happening in schools, right? At the local level, you will see some of those gains happening, and some of those gains may happen quickly. They may happen within a year or 2 years. But as a state, I want you to just really think about ways in which, as you're moving the state forward, that may take a little time, right? I always get the question about when should we expect to see gains? Should we expect to see gains? There are several things, again, that I mentioned that were happening in Mississippi at the same time. I do want to just stress that it has to really be a commitment of everyone to ensure that the supports that you're providing, the boots on the ground that Amy is going to talk about, how we have consistency in those types of supports, and how we ensure that we have equity across the state as far as the types of supports that schools are receiving. And as you can see, it was slow and steady, but we did in 2019 reach the national average in grade 4 reading on NAEP for the very first time. Next slide. So what is this model for our literacy coaches that we have at our state agency? And I'll just kind of start from the bottom and go upward. The model is that there's one state literacy director, and then there are state literacy coordinators who provide support to our regional coordinators. Now, as we begin, we have our embedded literacy coaches in our schools. Our regional coordinators, although they have the title of regional coordinator, they support at least 4 to 5 coaches within their region, but they also serve as a coach in one school. So with our literacy coach model, each of our coaches support 2 schools for the entire year. They may go to one school 2 days a week and the other 3 days a week, and then they may switch for the following week, but they support 2 schools for the entire year. For those schools that are large schools that we call mega schools, that may have between, at least 6 teachers per grade, like 6 teachers in K, 6 teachers in 1, etc., then that coach will only support that one school, because we want to make sure that the coach is not pulled too thin, right? So we have to look at schools as we are assigning coaches. We also have to look at the number of teachers who are in those schools that our coaches will have to support to ensure that they're able to provide the support that they need in order to be effective. And again, our regional coordinators support one school, but then they also serve as thought partners to our literacy coaches, to at least 4 to 5 coaches each. So our coaches have coaches, right? And then our state literacy coordinators, again, are those who then support in possibly 3 to 4 regional coordinators, and then that's how the process for the model works. This coaching model has been very successful as we rolled out our K-3 coaching model. So now the model has been replicated in our Office of School Improvement, that office that's supporting our schools with those federal designations. Our Special Education Office now has coaches, and they do our SSIP model, and they use this model in their schools. Our Early Childhood Education Department, we now have, or we also passed an Early Learning Collaborative Act during the same time as our Literacy-Based Promotion Act. So in our Early Learning Collaboratives, they have literacy coaches, they're going through letters training. So all of those coaches for early childhood also followed the model, and now most recently with our math coaches that are following a similar model as well. And those are the stats for our Mississippi school districts. We currently have 140 and about 470 elementary schools that at least have some configuration of including 3rd grade. All right, next slide. Over time, as you can see, we started in 2013 with a very, very small office. There was really a lot of conversations around the goal of hiring 75 literacy coaches in our first year. And as you can see, we hired about 24. Including me, I was included in that number of the hiring as a state literacy director. And we received just a lot of backlash around that. Like, can we not find 75 people who can be literacy coaches? And honestly, during that time, we could not. And we were just very committed to ensuring that we hire quality coaches over quantity. And as you can see over the years, as we began pushing out training to schools, to districts, to our teachers, administrators, as we began having coaches in those buildings that helped teachers to really strengthen their practices and improve their knowledge, we began to get better candidates for literacy coaches, if that makes sense. We were beginning to build the capacity as a state. No other time, with the State Department, have we had boots on the ground to this degree than when we began our literacy coach deployment. Again, it's important to say, yes, we want all kids reading grade level by the end of 3rd grade, but it's also extremely important to say, we're going to help you get there. So, and over the years, as you can see from the chart, we began to increase our literacy coach support. Next slide. I always say it has to take this interconnected system from policy to practice. Passing the law is a great, amazing first step, but then the implementation is what is key. So it's going to take our Department of Ed and our colleges of education, district superintendents and leaders, and of course our administrators and teachers, all with the collaboration of our parents who are at home. So now we'll talk about some lessons learned. Next slide, please. always say that it was my first 2 years as state literacy director was really spent in PR, in public relations, in letting all of the stakeholders know that this law and these requirements were coming, and that the assessment for promotion would also be there. And, we had a little less than 2 years before that went into place. But it was also extremely important for us to develop clear guidance for strategic implementation. We created an implementation guide. We also had a quick reference guide that was a part of that. So if you are a district administrator, then you would know that these are the things that I'm responsible for as a district administrator, as a school administrator, as the state Department of Education, as your Department of Public Instruction, as a state board, as teachers. So it's a quick reference guide so that everyone could see where they fit in the implementation of this law. So develop that clear guidance for your stakeholders. Then also be transparent in your communication. If there are some things that you don't know yet, you have to say, I don't know yet. The one thing that really frustrates stakeholders is when they just can't get any answers. In a collaborative spirit to say that, we're still working on that, or we have an RFP out for that, or we're waiting to receive guidance on that. Those types of things, as far as being transparent in communication with your stakeholders, it really goes a long way. And then lastly, adopt a model. Adopt a model for hiring your literacy staff, for the deployment of those staff, and then also for the practices that your coaches or your literacy specialists are going to encourage in schools. Because if you have schools that have consultants, educational consultants that may be coming in, you have to make sure that everyone is on the same page as to what best practices are and those best practices that they're going to promote. And then also that your administrators in those schools are leading the charge, that the administrator says this is the direction in which I want to take my school, and your specialists and coaches are there to support them in doing that. And in some cases, our coaches coach the administrators, right? All of our administrators do not come from elementary education backgrounds, but they are administrators in elementary schools. So we have to make sure that our administrators are also receiving the support that they need to be a literacy leader in their schools. And as you begin to hire staff, or as you're looking at your literacy specialists, make sure that your candidates not only have a deep knowledge of literacy instructional practices, but they also play well with other adults, all right? They have to have great coaching practices, abilities to build those relationships with teachers, because the teachers will need that in order to trust them, in order to trust that the things that they try in their classrooms, that the coaches will be receptive and really help them with that. So not only the knowledge, but also the relationship building skills. And then ensuring that your literacy specialists, those that you send out into those schools and districts, that they are able to continue to receive ongoing and frequent professional development, because they need to continue to hone their skills, and they also need thought partners to assist them in being the best support that they can be. And lastly, utilize the gradual release model. We always will tell schools, work us out of your school. We want to not have the schools to continue to rely on the literacy specialists. We want to build leaders, teacher leaders within those school buildings. So gradually, over time, begin to say that we'll have teachers who are going to lead these professional development meetings, or these POCs, or are going to lead data meetings. So making sure that we are consistently at the top of mind, building the capacity of those who are in the school as well. And that concludes my part, and I will turn it over to you, Amy.
Thank you, Dr. Burke, for your continued insight and your ongoing support. So on the next slide, it may look familiar for those of you who have been on the board with us, but however, if you're new, this is the 22-23 North Carolina Coaching Support Model. The continuum of support is developed to provide systematic, systemic, and sustainable letters and science of reading coaching from the state level to the school level. With the additional staff, the Office of Early Learning will consist of 4 state-level team members and 16 regional consultants focused on early learning and early literacy. Each region has 2 consultants in yellow, along with multiple early literacy specialists indicated in red on the chart with a total number noted to the far right. These range from 12 to 19 team members per region, assigned based on their total number of districts. Additionally, each region will be assigned 1 literacy facilitator serving as a full-time letters trainer. Several of the facilitator positions have been posted, interviewed, and are currently being processed by HR. During our initial year of statewide implementation, we recognize that every district needs support with establishing a strong science of reading core, including content and processes to support this work on a large scale. If we take North Carolina state data and enter it into the MTSS triangle, it would reveal we have core concerns. This implementation is slightly different than Mississippi because we're deploying statewide and moving at a different pace. However, one of our first lessons learned from Mississippi, and recognizing this is a continuous improvement model, as part of the initial phase, we're developing an MOU with clear expectations and non-negotiables to protect the time of the coach and investment in the work. It is currently being reviewed by a legal team member. During the initial year, early literacy specialists will have a dual role, supporting early literacy implementation 3 to 4 days per week at the district level, alongside the current district early literacy staff or team, yet also spending 1 or 2 days in identified at-risk or low-performing schools, supporting the school-level coach and or leadership team. This may look a little different in each district based on their current school coaching model. On the next slide, how do we know what each district is going to need? Dr. Burke reminded us of the importance of being consistent in our approach and implementation, as well as establish a coaching model that is embedded in the work at the district or school in a collaborative partnership approach. North Carolina is providing this collaborative partnership support cycle. If you click on the image, you'll see it's a one-pager that includes questions to guide conversations to develop and prioritize the work based on the district's needs. The charge of the early literacy specialist is to serve as a bridge from DPI to the district, building partnerships that engage stakeholders in a systems approach, supporting the alignment of the processes, coaching and resources at every level from the district to each school. Through ongoing collaboration and data conversations, they will support structures that systematically transfer letters theory to practice. As we move forward with systems approach, this same model will be shared and implemented across our division as we continue to coach, build capacity, and alignment from the state to the district. This model was developed so it could be used at the level of any system, all the way to the individual coach or educator if there's a need. The Office of Early Learning has developed resources and guides to clearly outline the implementation of letters. On the next slide, you'll see a couple images that we've also worked on the coaching work as well. These resources will continue to help support a shared vision and a common understanding while considering various district needs beyond their current cohort assignment, because we recognize being in a cohort doesn't mean you're not at different places. North Carolina is starting with an early literacy specialist to support every district in the first year. We recognize and want to validate that every school has students who are at risk, hidden somewhere in the averages, every school has underachieving performers, and every school has been impacted by the pandemic. We will use data to continuously improve this model and prioritize the support based on the data as we continue moving forward. We've been working closely with finance, HR, and legal to finalize the operational processes, including funding allocations, MOUs, and evaluation processes. We've sought out feedback from our regional directors, as well as taken into consideration the feedback provided from the superintendents at the last quarterly meeting, while also ensuring we're meeting legislative and legal requirements. Districts will also be provided the opportunity to have a voice in the virtual interviews should they choose to send a representative. We're moving as quickly and as efficiently as possible to begin next steps. We will continue additional details later this month, continue to communicate those details later this month. And one final lesson that we did learn from Mississippi is to focus on the PR. In September, we'll begin our 1 year later communications review. You'll hear from state leaders, district leaders, school leaders, and teachers the wonderful things already taking place across North Carolina as it relates to letters and the science of reading. This is only the tip of the iceberg as North Carolina begins to share our own story, including 44,000 committed and educated educators statewide, joining the journey to change the trajectory for all of our children.
Questions from my colleagues?
Thank you so much for the presentation. I believe several months ago I heard mention that some school districts had a running start on letters training. They began before the state. Do you have any, are you collecting any data, or are you communicating with these districts to find out how the achievement picture looks, I would imagine there's enough time from
Yes,
start to now to have some pretty solid data. Is that correct?
Yes, ma'am. So we actually have a bi-monthly meeting with what we call our PLM with our stakeholders. All of those districts were involved in that group. There were additional districts as well, but they were all included in that group if they choose to. We invited them if they chose to participate, and continue to ask for their feedback about this process as we're moving forward and how they started and lessons learned. When we can release and go a little further into our Amplify data, we're also digging into those districts to see what celebrations they have, as well as what they're continuing to focus on as they're moving forward. And that data will be coming soon.
Mr. Ford.
Mr. Chair, thank you so much for the presentation. I appreciate kind of putting the Mississippi model and the North Carolina model side by side while also acknowledging that they're not facsimiles of each other, right?
Yes, sir.
They borrow from each other in some regards. And there seems to be like a pretty strong resemblance between the two, pretty much at the state all the way down to the district level, with the exception to the school-based literacy coaches, right? And how, for the most part, they serve two schools, and even though they were understaffed, it was pretty proportionate as they ramped up, that 1 to 2 sort of ratio down in Mississippi. I'm wondering, for the North Carolina model, since it seems like most of the work really gets done at the school level, like the intensive work, and I saw the school literacy leads and mentioned targeted schools. How can we do the work at scale to really impact it? Because we have 150 roundabout elementary schools in Charlotte. And so I'm thinking about, so that's a lot of literacy coaches. Is the intention to ramp up there eventually, or is the model different? I'm just wondering if the model is different. How do we intend to still get the same level of impact without the same number of folks actually in school intensely working with the students?
Absolutely. So what we're trying to do is a little bit back at that gradual release model while we're collecting data. So since we are deploying statewide, we started with the regional piece to have that extra person, if you will, see what's going on in each district, analyze, talk through that process of where are we, do we have coaches in place, where are those coaches supporting, what are their gaps, what are some areas that they have strengths in, and how do we begin to coach and empower them and align the work. And then from there, where do we need to step in as we're collecting that data to provide additional support based on what they're seeing. We have 81 of our school districts that have coaches of some sort in at least 1 or 2 schools, and we have about 19 that do not. So for those who don't have a coach, this particular person may be coaching those principals or those school level teams and showing what a PLC might look like or how they can work through some of those questions to get to that teacher level. This is for this year. Another district is huge and they may have a team already in place, and so what model do they have in place and how can they teach them to fish, empower those people to go out and then have a tiered approach to training their coaches across that district. So what we're doing is kind of running a twofold piece. While we're at the district level, what do we currently have in place? How do we support some of those lower performing schools and model some of those pieces at least 1 to 2 days per week based on what they have in place? Because every district has different resources, and we want to make sure, as Dr. Burke had said, to look at that gradual release model. We may come back and find next year that I think in one region that doesn't have any low-performing schools at all, but that doesn't mean they don't have at-risk schools or at-risk students. So are we looking at that and paying attention to not only the high-performing school, but the subgroups within that school that's not making the same growth? Not even necessarily proficiency, but what about growth? There should be growth there. So all that to say, we're going to look at we have that process to have those conversations to figure out how we can get down all the way to that school level and have those consultants involved in these conversations as well as our RDs.
So you're supplementing what's already there, assuming that there's something there with the recognition. There might be 19 schools where there's nobody there. Kind of initiating them into the letters, framework. In the event that, the school's 19 or so districts where they don't have anybody there, is there a plan as part of the graduate release to eventually make sure at whatever time period that everybody has somebody, someone who was already there and kind of getting support from the support team, or folks who didn't have anybody there who now will be furnished with someone at the school level?
Yeah, absolutely. Identifying those gaps and seeing where we have the gaps first, and even connecting districts who have coaches in place that are doing a great job, but another district who maybe doesn't have any coaches at all, and talk about sometimes it's a person who doesn't understand there's a budget for that, or how to look at your budget to see if you can get a coach, and if not, how can we be of support there? So let's look at those processes.
Thank you.
Vice Chair Duncan.
Thank you for the presentation. It was very helpful. Thank you, our friends from Mississippi who contributed to it. One of the key lessons learned, and I know it was modeled for hiring literacy staff, boots on the ground deployment, and coaching practices. In your presentation, I think you spent some time on the boots on the ground deployment and the coaching practices aspect. Can you describe a little more detail for the board what the model for hiring literacy staff would look like from your mind?
Remember that quote Dr. Burke used about we're not sure yet? No, we do have a process in place, but I'm working with finance, legal, and HR to make sure that we're meeting those legal requirements. One of the conversations, we'll have multiple conversations, but one of those is we know that it's going to need to be virtual, and as we post these positions, depending on which approach we take, as we post the positions, they'll be set up, the interviews will be set up so that they are virtual, and a district, while we have to have the same people interviewing to follow that HR process, we're asking districts to send representatives to help with input. They may know the red flags, they know what they're looking for priorities, those 1, 2, and 3 top people, and some potential threats of others in the interview process that maybe they think might not be a good fit because. So that's how they'll be involved in that, just to have that voice. But we are, as soon as we can move forward with that MOU, I don't want to put too much out there without the MOU in place, because there's specifics in there I want to make sure that we solidify before. But we have a team that's working on the hiring process, and so it just depends on which model we go. If it's going to be 115 fiscal agents, if it's a regional fiscal agent, or if it's an agency, those are the pieces that we're looking at. And so we're getting closer to that conversation being finalized, but it's just a matter of running the process.
Another final question, and it has more to do with the effects of resources that a classroom teacher uses. That's very critical, whether it can be basal or it could just be non-basal, digital, a variety. I don't know what's out there. It's been a while since I've been in the classroom. But is this where a coach would be of tremendous assistance, helping the classroom teacher, grade level groups, PLCs, to talk about the adoption and the use of the best resources?
Yes, ma'am. So every district also turns in that literacy intervention plan. And so that's a conversation, a piece of data that they'll have at the table, starting with the district, to find out, is everybody in the district using the same resources? Is every school doing something different? And the alignment of, does it match up and align to where we're headed with science and reading? Where there's some mixed things in there that we need to be mindful of? Are we taking those standards and starting there and aligning the curriculum if it is aligned to science and reading? So yes, there's a conversation that will begin at the district and then filter down to the school level. So I could see they start with the district team, then they're presenting to principals, and then they're also interacting with coaches. And so it's kind of a filter piece.
Okay, thank you.
Ms. Lloyd.
Thank you so much for the presentation. As a literacy teacher, I get really excited about the support. When I hear the word support, that's what we as educators love the most. My question was around the special early literacy specialists. In the presentation, I believe Dr. Burke mentioned that some of them work within the school buildings and also are in school, doing the teaching. It sounded like, is that ideally what we're thinking as well? Like when I don't know if that was part of the I don't know yet moment, but when we think about that position, are we modeling that experience as like Mississippi in that way of having them be in the school buildings, having that direct impact as well?
Yes and no. So this first year, we're starting at that district to filter down to identify those priority schools where they would be in that building at least 1 to 2 days per week. And they can rotate. It could be 1 to 2 schools 1 week and 1 to 2 the next, and then flip-flop, so you're reaching approximately 4 schools. They would be in there for that purpose, modeling those PLCs, maybe even getting into a classroom, because if they're doing that consistently, you have them there. This is kind of that core year where we're focusing on getting everybody on the same page and trying to be very strategic at the same time. Looking at it next year, we may come back and look at the data and say, now we need to shift a little more to strategic and intensive, which means a little more involved in the school level as opposed, because the district may have the processes in
which schools they dive into, as well as this is going to be a teacher resource as well, and school resource as well. I really enjoyed looking at that, and the questions around the data are really awesome and really helping us do the work for our children. So thank you so much for that.
Absolutely, and our intent was to make sure that no matter what system you're in, whether it's state, whether it's district, whether it's school, or whether it's classroom, it works for all systems.
And if there are, if there are any turnovers, we'll be having those specialists will still be able to come back, possibly, because I know that with the gradual release, but when we need you, are you on standby for us? You know?
Absolutely, and so that's one of the conversations we're still having about what does that look like in the MOU for that gradual release, or an increase or influx next year and come back down. So it just depends on how quickly we move the data.
Thank you.
Mr. Hall.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. Just some comments. And listening to the spokesperson from Mississippi, there were two things that struck me in moving this process forward that she alluded to. And one of them was the gradual release. And what I'm trying to, take no precedence kind of concept. But, and we do a lot of that.
Yes.
But a gradual process in order to get these coaches and everyone in place and not be a threat to anybody, which I thought was ideal. But she also mentioned the point of PR, how important PR and for selecting the right people for the right job. And that PR piece is critical as we look at the size of the state and the differences across the 8 districts, regions across the state. And I need to say this. In the beginning, I was real skeptical about this. I really was. I really was about it. But since that time, going to the PR ranking, maybe the last 4 or 5 months, I've been talking to some friends about the letters training and how's that going and whatnot. In the beginning, places I go, there was a lot of pushback to it. But believe it or not, that whole attitude of pushback has changed. Which has allowed me to change my thinking and say, well, wait a minute, there's something to this. I'm going to Mississippi, I won't say Mississippi, leave that alone to itself. But the concept of what they're doing is certainly making a difference. But I feel confident now, that we have to do the good PR, good planning, the gradual approach. We're making a difference. Because those same people that had some concern, educators, now saying, you know what, now, I wish I had something like this when I first started. I don't know what it is. I'm not looking at a book.
Do you want me to get you a book? I'll get you a book.
Well, I've heard that there's something that's going on here. And I don't want us to lose that, whatever that is, as we move forward. Because this is critical of the low performing schools that we talk about. And these 115 extra people, which I don't have a clear picture in my mind exactly. I don't think we have that yet either. But I'm excited about the possibility, and I hope I'll be very long enough to see the end result soon. And I have to say that now. I don't want to be biggest, but after this, those practitioners out there believe it more and more and more and more. And those are the ones that we have to convince this child can't get on the career path beyond 12th grade. If we do the things back here, then hopefully this program will do. Now let me shut up now. I want you to know, I was not too strong supportive with it, but I'm convinced that it's going to work. Thank you, Mr. Chairman.
Mr. Hall, Superintendent.
Well, Mr. Hall, I'm about ready to make your day because while we will be sharing the specifics at a later date, I can tell you that our K-3 diagnostic reading data shows that the students and teachers who participated in cohorts 1 and 2 already, their gains far exceed those who are students and teachers who are starting the training this month. And we have a district, I'm not going to say which one, but we have one that has a 90% economically disadvantaged population that has made some of the highest gains in the whole state.
That's what I'm looking for.
That's right.
And I don't know when you're going to release, but I've already heard something about those. So I linked some of that. I don't know where I got it from. I'm going to say again, Madam Superintendent, I'm excited. And I'm hoping that it fulfills the intent. It's not going to be easy. I'm going to go back again to the gradual release and strong PR. Thank you so much for sharing.
Thank you. And if I may say, this would not have happened if we did not have bipartisan, everybody on board, aligning our arrows, supporting with funding. When we presented to several states recently with Dr. Burke and ExoNet, did not realize and kind of took for granted how comprehensive our legislation is to support all children, from core all the way through interventions. And not every state has that backing in the legislation, and they don't have the backing in the program, like not program, but with letters being named. So we're just fortunate North Carolina to be heading in the direction where it's exciting times and just keeping it about kids.
Sure. Dr. Burke, I want to thank you for joining us this morning, and particularly for sharing your experiences and giving us the opportunity to learn from you. I couldn't help but notice in your presentation the two slides that, at least in my brain, correlated. The one was the gradual increase in coaches directly supporting schools. Seemed to be very correlated to the NAEP scores and the rising student skills and literacy. I recall from an earlier presentation that I heard you make that when you were having great difficulty in trying to fill those positions, you developed pretty rigorous criteria for the selection of those individuals, as well as a process to evaluate the efforts and the activity of those individuals once they got into the position. And that was one of the keys to success, was having that discipline on both ends. Could you say a little more about that?
Yes, thank you so much, Travis. I think that I failed to mention that our coaches, the way that we deployed our coaches is that we looked at an average of 2 years of third grade data, and we deployed our coaches to our lower performing schools first. And as we were able to hire more coaches, we were able to then support more schools. So to your point, yes, we began to increase our coaches over time, supported more schools over time, and then also were at the same time increasing our improvements on NAEP. With our literacy coaching model, and again, communication is key. With our coaches, they have to submit monthly reports to the school superintendent, the school administrators, and then also copy the district superintendent on those reports. Now, those monthly reports are not something that, we always talk about paperwork, but these monthly supports are very targeted. And it helps the coach to document his or her support. It also helps the state agency to look at it holistically across the state and say, well, these are the areas in these schools that are needing this type of support versus the other. For example, the coach would say, in this school this month, I've provided coaching support in the areas of classroom management, or in small group instruction, or in the phonics routine. Notice that the first one, classroom management, is not a part of letters, right? But you have to have classroom management in that environment in order for all of these things to take place. So there are some teachers who may need that type of support in other areas, in routines and procedures and those types of things, in order to even create the environment for effective instruction. So yes, communication from The coach ensuring that, again, Amy's office understands what's going on in those particular schools. Like she mentioned, that they will be taking stock of all of these things and the resources this year. But during our interview process, we have a kind of a two-part process where our coaches, of course, answer certain questions. Not just do you know the components of reading, but questions such as if a school does not have an MTSS model in place, the multi-tier system of support, or the old response to intervention process in place, how will you support that principal in making sure that that process is stood up in the school? I'm a former literacy coach, former teacher, and the coach is really there in the school to support these other types of processes, again, to make sure that the environment is conducive to learning and making that shift to the science of reading. So one is about your knowledge, how you support the principal, and also, of course, the teachers. And the other piece is that we do have a coaching scenario, where we may give the coach data, and we would say that this is the data from one of the teachers. Where would be the first place you would start? If this is this teacher's data, how would you support this teacher in improving his or her data? Or the scenario in that you're now in a coaching situation with the teacher, how would you coach this teacher? So that we can look and make sure that they're using the right language, coaching conversations, and those types of things. So, what Amy mentioned as far as taking stock of what's there, to make sure that they are strategically deploying supports, I think that's going to be great. I'm glad you mentioned it here. And that is a part of your PR, because there are going to be schools that ask, okay, what about me? When am I getting my support? When am I getting those things? But being very forthcoming and proactive. I love one-pagers. I love one-pagers that are directed to parents. Another one that is directed to educators, one that's directed to community members, because that language sometimes has to change. So instead of just making sure that we understand, in these meetings, how are we going to be proactive about communicating, to schools and districts? This is what we're doing this year. So where you may see other districts and say, well, they already have so much support, what about me? Then understand that this is what we're doing with this process so that we can ensure that we begin to provide the support where needed. So those are just some of the ways in which we hire coaches, and just some of the just suggestions and encouragement. I'm just really excited about working with North Carolina and continue to work with Amy. And I think that this is a great plan. I just really believe that everyone has to know what's going on and where we're going, so that they can understand that, help is coming, help is on the way, and that the department is leading that effort.
Thank you, Dr. Burke. We appreciate your partnership and the opportunity to continue to work with you on this journey. And Dr. Ryan, thank you for your leadership, and particularly how you're managing this balance between delivering services to every district has needs, while also targeting support to those most in need, and then trying to bridge the gap in between. Recognize that's a tough balance to create, but you're doing it the right way, and we look forward to continuing to marshal the resources in increasing numbers to send your way. Thank you. All right, colleagues, the next opportunity we have is continuing the trend of support to teachers and schools and their students is to hear from one of our partner organizations, the North Carolina Education Corps. By way of a refresher, this board was instrumental in the creation of this endeavor, which combines the spirit of service across North Carolina with our commitment to public education in a tangible way by recruiting North Carolinians to work side by side with our teachers in our schools. And we're delighted to have the Executive Director of the North Carolina Education Corps with us this morning, John Paul Smith.
Good morning, Chair Davis, Vice Chair Duncan, Superintendent Truitt. Thank you for having us. And first, I just want to say congratulations on the progress with the literacy coaches and the further progress around literacy in the state, too. That's a big win for North Carolina. I think we should all feel very good about that. We want to share out this morning about the early returns on North Carolina Education Corps and how we're contributing to the community win file. The way that I'll go about that is I'll cover just, again, kind of reaffirm our purpose and some of our progress over this last year. Talk about why this, why now, I'll talk about our broader growth trajectory, similar to some of the work that Dr. Honor was just discussing in terms of it being a gradual release of tutors across the state. And then I'll do a recap of the work from this past year, 2021-2022 school year, our first school year where we partnered exclusively with school districts to recruit, train, and support high-impact K-3 literacy tutors. Then I'll go into some reflection and share out on our direction for the organization. Our reflection will include some thoughts from the field, from our school partners, as well as thoughts from our own team about what we're learning. And then our first program evaluation came out on Friday from NC State and the Friday Institute at NC State, as well as Duke Social Science Research Institute. So I'll share the highlights from that program evaluation. Next slide. Next slide. So just as a quick refresher, Ms. Carper, you're an high school English teacher.
That's right.
All right. So, what's it? Perfect. That's great. So you'll know that the basic structure of a good story is a character who wants something and overcomes conflict to get it. That's what we're all about. We're all about working together to empower students across the state, work through different challenges to make sure that all children have a sound basic education. So the purpose for North Carolina Education Corps was to chip in on that effort. We got started as part of a COVID response. We want to be around for a long time to help close opportunity gaps and advance the goals of the state board. And part of the way that we do that is we engage community members to support teachers and students, particularly to engage and connect caring adults to students to support them as tutors and tutors. So, quick refresher there. Our logic model, we worked very early on with Dr. Tripp Stallings, don't hold him accountable to this, hold us accountable to this, to develop a logic model around our work. We are very grounded in this belief that we want to make sure that all students in the state of North Carolina have the full support that they need to thrive. The way that we contribute to this, again, is to help recruit and train and provide ongoing coaching and support for high-impact literacy tutors. This is a small part of contributing to an effort to make sure that every child is getting a sound basic education, to make sure that we're engaging community members to contribute to that effort, and that we're not only focusing on the student growth in an academic sense, but also as human beings, develop them as human beings so they can contribute to society as well. We've benefited from the strong support of a board of directors, including Superintendent Truitt, as well as a board of advisors, Wendell Halls, and the state board's liaison to that. Appreciate your work. And over the next several years, we are very focused on growing the number of tutors across the state. So we're approaching our work with a very targeted growth trajectory. We're coming out, we have 3 phases of our growth trajectory. The first phase is startup. This is the next slide. Second phase is sure up, and then the last phase is scale up. So we're in the sure up phase right now. Again, similar to that gradual release, let's make sure that we have our sea legs underneath us before we really ramp up. Our focus has been having 250 tutors this past year. Our goal this year is to have 500 tutors. Next year is to have 1,000 tutors across the state. Now, those are big numbers, but not nearly the number of tutors that we need to really meet the student need across the state in terms of how many students can actually benefit from high-impact tutors. But we're taking this deliberate approach because we really are committed to getting it right early on so that we can scale up in a smooth way. So that's the growth trajectory. The focus within Sure Up is really refining and perfecting our service model. So we work very closely with school districts, the central offices, and then the principals at the school level, literacy leads at the school level, to implement what we're doing. We are constantly working to improve that model. So we have a big focus there. As an organization, any startup organization, we're all focused on making sure we have a strong team, strong infrastructure in place to be able to scale out. And then, PR came up in the last conversation. Building awareness is going to be key to our growth too. So we're a new organization, we need to do a lot of work there. And all of this with the ultimate goal of student outcomes in mind. How do we help to drive student outcomes? So a report from this past year, just a quick recap. Again, this was the first year where we focused exclusively on high-impact literacy tutors. We had the goal of working with 25 PSU partners across the state. We ended up working with 23. So we were 92% toward our goal. Number of tutors, we had aimed to get to 250. We got to 237. So 95% of the way to that goal. And then we had projected that we would use a budget of $3.2 million for operations last year. We operated on $2.2 million, which was 69%. So we were punching above our weight in terms of the amount of money that we were using to actually deliver on results. I'll also say that the precise number of students served will get better at figuring out exactly what that is as we go, and I'll describe a tool that will help us with that that we're going to put into place this coming year. Our estimate is that our tutors served, the 237 tutors served between 2,800 and 3,500 students last year, which is pretty good numbers. We had some goals around funding. So as you all know, we started out with $1.7 million last year, mostly private, just to get going, and had a goal to secure some public funding. We were able to do that. We secured $14.2 million in public funding. Some great funding from the governor's office, Jeff Coltrane to the left here helped with that. Some gear funding, and then we secured some public funding from the North Carolina General Assembly in the form of ESSER dollars as well. So that's good. Our next round of funding will come from private. There are some constraints around this funding, so we're operating on a reimbursement model, which means one of my focuses this coming year is to raise more private dollars so we have working capital so we can ramp up quicker to reach more students faster. And then the other constraint, as everybody knows, on the ESSER money is that it will run out in September 2024. So that's important to keep in mind. Big win for the organization this year is we got our program evaluation going. So we're working with NC State, Friday Institute, and Duke Social Science Research Institute to do a 3-year mixed methods evaluation of our work. The report that just came out is the first program evaluation. It really covers February 2022 to June. So it's just half of the school year, and it's all qualitative right now at this point. But they will share out quantitative data over the course of this next year. Happy to say more about that as folks are interested. Our partners from this past year, we had 23 in total. You'll see that there's some color shading on this map. We had district partners in 7 of the 8 education regions across the state. We had 5 from Tier 3 communities, I think 7 from Tier 2 communities, and 11 from Tier 1 communities. So our goal is to be in every education region across the state. We'll be there next year. So this coming year we'll have 30 PSU partners, and we will be in all 8 of the education regions. Got some good press coverage this past year. Governor Cooper has done some site visits. We welcome you all to join some site visits this fall or throughout this year to learn more about our work and to see it in person. Vice Chair Duncan made it out to Winston-Salem Forsyth, visited Moore Magnet School, which we really appreciated his support on that. The best article on high-impact tutoring and in North Carolina Education Corps is an article that was written by NNC earlier this summer. There's a link to it in the next slide here. It's What is High Dosage Tutoring and Why Does the State's Investment in It Matter? Great resource for getting a really comprehensive understanding of what high-impact tutoring is all about. What does high impact actually mean? How is it different than reading buddies? Just to share out again, high impact tutoring is all about making sure that students are working with tutors 3 times a week, 30 minutes a session. There's a consistent tutor who's working with those students. The students are matched to the tutor based on in-class data, where they are, what their specific skill needs are, and then the tutors work with them to help to improve we're really focused on improving their phonological awareness and phonemic awareness right now. So really fabulous, and we'll be able to track, this coming year, we'll be able to track every single tutor session to understand what is the frequency of those sessions. Are they actually 30 minutes? What's the duration? Are they actually happening over, the frequency is, are they happening 3 times a week? The duration is, are they happening 30 minutes a session or more? What skills are they working on? And are they in groups of, is it one-on-one or is it one-on-three? We'll be able to track that with the tool that we'll be using this coming year. So that's the recap from this last year. Some reflections on the year. Just want to share out a couple from the field. The first one is from Scotland County. This is from Tanya McLean. He's a principal in Scotland County. She shared this with us in January. She shared 100% of students being served demonstrated growth in reading, and 10% of them, and again this is mid-year, have moved from below grade level at the beginning of the year to at grade level at the mid-year mark. We're seeing tremendous impact as a result of these efforts. So we will have more quantitative data in the future, but just want to share out some of the type of information that principals are already collecting. Another story comes from Granville County Schools. We had a celebration at the end of the school year with our tutors, core member celebration, and Lauren Piper, the district literacy lead from Granville County Schools, shared out that there are 87 students in Granville County Schools that were served by NCEC tutors. You can see that 17 of those students ended the year proficient at benchmark, 23 ended the year with well above average growth, 21 ended the year with above average growth, and 16 ended the year with average growth. So good early indicators there. The picture on the slide with Granville County includes a picture of Lauren Piper as well as her son Braden. Braden was actually a beneficiary of one of the tutors, and Ms. Piper teared up when she was sharing out about the impact of the tutors in Granville County Schools. And one of the ways that our team likes to think about our impact and the support that you've made possible is that last year we were able to serve about 3,000 Bradens. So that was a powerful story for us to hear. Lots of reflections from the North Carolina Education Corps team. There are 30 bullets I counted in this table right here. I won't go through them all. We could probably spend 30 minutes on each one of them. What I will do is just highlight some of the main learning categories. So we're learning a ton about marketing and branding. Again, back to PR, it's incredibly important. It doesn't matter if you have the best product or service in the world if nobody knows about it. So we're spending a lot of time making sure that we have our marketing and PR right, and we're spending a lot of time on understanding who are the right types of tutors to recruit. So we have three main categories. We have community college and college students. This is a great way for them to earn some money, learn something about working in schools, get some work-based experience where they potentially catch the bug and want to end up working for the public schools that they tutor for. So there's that. There's a lot of stay-at-home parents and caregivers have stepped up to serve as tutors, and then a lot of retirees. So we're refining our marketing to be able to reach these audiences better and better. That's going to be incredibly important for us. Recruitment, learning a lot around recruitment. This past year, there are a couple metrics that we're tracking. One is what's the time to hire. So last year we learned that if somebody steps up and they say, hey, I would like to serve as a tutor, you need to be able to get them into a position fairly quickly. We're tracking data around what is the time to hire from the time that the prospective tutor applies to the time they actually start working with kids. So we're trying to close that time to hire. We're also tracking conversion. How good of a job are we doing so we take on the burden of doing most of the recruiting for school districts. This is one of 4 pain points that we address for school districts. And we are tracking our conversion rate from our screening to who actually gets hired by the districts based on what they want. Numbers are good around that. And then something else that we're beginning to track is our retention rates of tutors. So last year we had 237 tutors. At the end of the year, their commitment was to serve for 1 year. At the end of the year, 178 of those 237 tutors, at 75%, said that they wanted to continue on as a tutor. That's a pretty good retention rate for a group that didn't sign up to commit for more than a year. So we're going to keep track of that. So recruitment's going to be really important. Implementation, this is where most of the reflections from the program evaluators came out. Making sure that there's smooth communication flows between North Carolina Education Corps, district offices, school level personnel is going to be key as we continue to improve and refine our model. Happy to speak to that. Internal operations, that's just we learned what we need as we grow as an organization to be able to support districts And then we're doing a lot more work around longer-term strategic planning right now and getting a real clear picture around what are other states doing to support high-impact tutoring. Now there's more data on what other states are doing to ramp up high-impact tutoring. We're also looking at what are other tutoring providers, both for-profit and nonprofit tutoring providers, doing to support students as well. So we'll be happy to share more information on that later this year. Now to go to some of the reflections that our program evaluators came out with. So again, the program evaluators are doing a 3-year mixed methods program evaluation. This is the first year. It really just focuses on February 2022 to June 2022, so it's a limited time span. The main insights that they came out with is they came out with a few early successes, and they came out with a few key opportunities for us. So among the early successes, literacy tutoring leads, these are school personnel, they view the core members, the tutors, as valued support. So good. Want to make sure of that. Core members develop positive relationships with colleagues and students in their placement schools. Excellent. Core members feel supported by learning coaches. We also have learning coaches who work with our tutors who have backgrounds as teachers, specialized knowledge in early literacy. They help to support our tutors on an ongoing basis, so they're fully equipped to support students in the classroom. So core members felt supported by our learning coaches. Core members and literacy tutoring leads believe that tutoring positively affected students' reading skills, and then core members and literacy tutoring leads indicate tutoring is positively associated with students' social and emotional skills. So there's that academic piece as well as whole child piece there. In terms of some key opportunities for us, while North Carolina Education Corps provided guidance for core members and for districts and schools, establishing clear partnerships and communication among parties involved emerged as a challenge. So one of the things that we've been doing, what we were grateful for in reading this report, is that nothing came out as a surprise to us. A lot of what the program evaluation shows affirmed what we've already learned. And we were validated in that our team has been working since January to address a lot of the key opportunities that were elevated. So in terms of improving partnership communication, we put together a clear partner guide. We put together a clear playbook for districts to use, and we've also ramped up the kind of kickoff sessions and ongoing coaching sessions that we have between our team and districts. So that's a good one. The second key opportunity here is core members indicated challenges with the student tracker. So what the student tracker is after each individual tutoring session, the tutors will capture who did I work with, how many students did I work with, how long did we work, what skills did we work on. And that information last year was, we kept that information, or the tutors kept that information in Google spreadsheets. That's where we had to start. And what we're doing this coming year is we have worked with a group called Latero Education to build an actual app that can either be used on a phone or it can be used in a web platform. You can also print out the material if you really need to. And it'll track all of that information for every single session. And school-level employees, district-level employees, our team, program evaluators will be able to see all of those stats on how the high-impact model is being implemented in real time over the course of the year. So it's a huge, new addition for our team and for our partners. Last key opportunity here, core members were not consistently fully integrated into schools. Many core members did not receive school-level information or resource access. We're working on that this year too, making sure that we're doing more principal kickoffs and being intentional about making sure that the communication flows move along really well. So this is the map for this coming year. The coloring in this map is the red districts are districts that we worked with last year. The teal districts are new districts for us. So as I mentioned earlier, we will be working with 30 districts this coming school year. You can see that they're all over the state. We're excited about this because what we're really focused on learning is, what does it take to support different types of districts across the state? How do we get really good at providing differentiated support with the critical mass of districts? And then based on that information, it will allow us to scale up a lot faster, a lot sooner. So where do we need help? We need help with champions. We need you to continue to spread the word on our work, social media, conferences. We'd love to join you all at conferences. Word of mouth is the best form of marketing for North Carolina Education Course. That would be helpful to get the word out that way. We also want you to hold us accountable and contribute to our ability to work smart, inspire excellence. We aspire to get better and better at providing a high-quality, cost-effective solution or asset to North Carolina schools, and we need your help to get there. We want to understand how we can best work with you all to advance your goals, to make sure that students are getting additional help. So I think there are certainly some opportunities for us to be thinking about how could we share some of our work with the literacy coaches from DPI, lots of different opportunities to collaborate, and we're also eager to think about how to. One of the most limited resources for teachers is time. So that a big part of what our tutors do is they free up teachers' time to be able to spend more time providing intensive support to the students who need that, while the tutors take time to spend with other students in small groups. So that affects teacher workplace satisfaction, which is really important. We also feel like engaging the community college and college students in particular can help with some workforce development type efforts, talent pipeline type efforts. So that's a lot of information. I'll stop there. We're always open to your questions and your recommendations as well. So I'll just stop and take your questions at this time.
Thank you, Mr. Smith. We have time for a couple of questions or comments. Ms. White?
Exciting presentation. So thank you for sharing the work that you're doing. A couple of questions. Is there a time over the next year that you think high impact would include letters training? I heard you say phonetic and phonemic awareness, which are two of the tenets of the letters training, but closely aligning what we're doing with our teachers across the state and the instruction that you can provide with one-on-one tutoring. So that's question number one.
Sure, yeah. So I think there are probably a couple elements to that. One is all of our tutors and their training, the training is grounded in the science of reading. So the tutors, they don't have 2 years to go through letters, but what we do is we coordinate with Dr. Ryan's team and others to figure out what is the most appropriate training that's grounded in the science of reading for the tutors themselves. So that's a real big focus of ours. The second thing that your question made me think about is what is the opportunity and also what's the demand for expanding high-impact tutoring beyond what we're able to deliver right now. So right now our tutors really are focused on the phonics piece of the foundational skills for reading. We have gotten demand from schools. They've asked us, hey, could you expand to K-5 literacy, beyond phonics, expand all the types of foundational skills that your tutors can help our students with. We've also received demand for getting into math. And we've also received demand for thinking about how can we engage not only all of our tutors right now are part-time employees of the school districts, and they work in person with the students. Working in person as a high-impact tutor is shown by research to be the most effective way to work with students. Some districts have asked us, hey, it may be hard for us to recruit in-person tutors. Would you ever be open to virtual tutoring? And there are some high-impact tutoring programs out there that are virtual that we could learn from. And then there are other programs out there that are not only paying people to be tutors, but they're also engaging volunteers. There's some really strong programs, one focused on literacy in Charlotte, one focused on math, that engage volunteers. So that would be another area that we could think about expanding the number of people out there who are able to support students so we can reach more students. And of course, a key factor in how effective is that support actually going to be is making sure that we get the training right. Does that answer your question?
Exactly.
Okay.
Yes, exactly. I was going to pivot and re-emphasize that idea of networking collaboration in the non-classroom setting.
Yep.
Multiple providers across the state, the YMCAs, the 21st Century Learning Partners, faith-based organizations that are working really hard to provide after-hours instruction for students who need reinforcement
this was very exciting. It takes me back to my days as an assistant principal many years ago, organizing the school volunteer program, and how I would have loved to have had someone come in and train tutors. My question has to do with this. What about a school or a district that has an existing volunteer program? Yeah. And here we are with 5 moms or dads or grandmoms or grandpas, and they want to tutor. Will you accept those and take them through? How does that work?
Great question. So there are 4 pain points that we help the districts address. The first one is recruiting and staffing, just finding people. The second one is training and ongoing support. So that includes our coaching. The third part, and you can break these down in different ways, is monitoring the progress of the students and making sure this is where the kind of tutor session law comes into play. Making sure that that's happening, making sure that we have strong program evaluation to continue to drive continuous improvement. And then the fourth part of what we're doing right now, in some ways, is serving as an advocate for high impact tutoring in general in the state, and just elevating the conversation around that. And what you all have provided and what the General Assembly has provided is support to help subsidize some of the work that's happening in schools. So a part of what you're asking is, if districts already have people in place, would you be willing to train them? We're exploring what we can do around that. Beyond existing, I think the answer is yes. It's a question of how do you do that and how do you roll it out. Beyond just existing volunteers, what we're also saying, and we're gonna pilot this out. I won't say what district we're gonna pilot it out with yet. We're seeing some districts say, hey, we've got teachers' assistants in place right now who we can use a portion of their time to contribute as a high impact tutor. We don't need your help on recruiting them, we need your help on training them. And so there's lots of opportunities to do that type of thing. And I also, to your point, there are YMCAs, Boys and Girls Clubs, like just having a full-blown conversation with a variety of different types of stakeholders and thinking about how can we elevate what's happening around high impact tutoring. How can we make sure that there's as much coverage as possible across the state? It's Education Corps can't reach every corner of the state by ourselves right away. Totally worth thinking about how do we make sure that we can get more tutors in the door and that the tutors that are there are well trained. So totally open to that type of opportunity. Thank you. Yeah.
Thank you, Mr. Smith. If you take our appreciation and thanks back to your team, including Dr. Ward. And we appreciate the partnership and look forward to more great things for our students from North Carolina Education Corps.
Thank you so much.
Thank you. We'll now take a break and return at 11:45. 11:45. brief report of the activities in those meetings and what's before us today for action. We'll begin with the Student Learning and Achievement Committee and Dr. Oxendine.
Thank you, Chair Davis. I am Olivia Oxendine, and I vice chair the committee, Student Learning and Achievement. I'm assisting today, assisting Ms. Candace in presenting the items that are on the SLA agenda. Yesterday, we heard from Dr. Carlin. She gave us an update on the Gisela Abramson Holocaust Act, highlighting the current work of the Holocaust Council, laying out 3 areas of work. Number 1 is the DPI review of middle and high school standards, identifying areas for content integration. The second stream of work is DPI and the districts, our school districts, providing curriculum content and resources within existing and new courses. And the third stream of work is underway by NCAT and the North Carolina Holocaust Council in the development of content resources and professional development. We look forward to continued updates by Dr. Smith on that exciting work. I cannot wait until it's implemented. It should be really good for our middle and high school students in terms of enrichment and knowledge about that tragic period in our history. So that's going to be a good addition to the content. There was no recommendation, no action on the board on that item. It was a new business item, so just for an update only. The next item, which is also a new business item, Mr. Kalen Clifton shared the latest white paper with the board, one that explored the geography as an undisputable fact related to internet access. The General Assembly has made funds available to conduct new research in key areas, and one of those areas happens to be internet access. So this was the second installment of those white papers that we presented yesterday. Going on to action on first reading, Drs. Aiken and Day presented an update on the science and healthful living and physical education, the work that is going on in those 3 areas in terms of revising the standards. The science is on track. The healthful living probably needs a little bit more time so that we can get responses from our LEAs, so that the agency can move forward with finalizing committees. So the request of the board is that we approve a 6-month delay so those kind of activities can take place. Another item that is, this is an action on first read as well, SLA 2 is approval of the first digital learning, not the first, but the revised digital learning standards, and this was presented by Dr. Cedric McBride. They presented, part of the presentation dealt with 3 levels of rubrics. We have a state rubric, and that's a new rubric. We have a district rubric, and we also have a school rubric. They walked us through the framework. Presented the framework. They presented the work team descriptors, the goals of the revision process, the emphasis on rubrics, as I just stated a minute ago, the 3 levels of rubrics, and also highlighted the extensive stakeholder involvement in this revision process. So it was a very good report. Look forward to more information on the outcomes of the rubrics once they are implemented. And also, those are the items. That takes care of the report for the SLA.
Thank you, Dr. Oxendine. We'll now turn to the Education, Innovation, and Charter Schools Committee led by Ms. Amy White. Ms. White.
Good morning, Chair Davis and colleagues. I'm Amy White. I'm the chair of the Education, Innovation, and Charter School Committee, along with Mr. Candace. Yesterday, we had a fantastic discussion around several items. The action on first read item was a consideration of virtual charter school enrollments, and I introduced that item yesterday and suggested that we would have some items presented to the board in closed session. The item is before us this month because of discrepancy between the charter school average daily membership system and the legislative allowance for the 2022-2023 was discovered on July the 29th. The 2 impacted schools were notified to stop further student and additional students for the North Carolina Cyber Academy and 2,800 students for the North Carolina Virtual Academy. Those increases were effective only for the 2021 and the 2021-22 school years. See Session Law 2021-3, Section 3.2, subsection A as your reference. No new enrollment exception has been made by the legislature or the State Board of Education. The enrollment cap for these virtual charter schools reverted by Operation Law to the 2,592 beginning this 2022-23 school year. At the end of the 2021-22 school year, North Carolina Cyber Academy had a student enrollment of 2,595 students. At the end of the 2021-2022 school year, North Carolina Virtual had an enrollment of 3,116. As previously stated, on Friday the 29th of 2022, the Department of Public Instruction received information from the schools requesting funding for enrollments at or above the 2021-2022 enrollment numbers. No requests had been made by either school for the state board to approve the funding caps above the 2,592 statutory maximum. DPI learned from the schools that as of July 29th, 2022, Cyber Academy already had 2,705 students for the new school year, and that Virtual Academy already enrolled 3,425 students for the 2022-2023 academic year. These schools are responsible for knowing their statutory limitations. No entity has the authority to waive that enrollment limit except the General Assembly and the State Board of Education. The State Board is now in the position of having to address this issue at the last moment when these schools have gone outside of their legal authority and over-enrolling students and failed to ask for waivers in a timely manner. This was a disappointment. Students have been promised enrollment in these schools, and we are mere days away from the scheduled beginning of the school. The State Board then feels compelled to act in the best interest of those students, notwithstanding the failure of the virtual schools to follow the required processes. However, we want to make it clear that this cannot happen again, and in the future, an orderly and legally compliant process will be required. Therefore, Mr. Chair, as a result of these presentations, on behalf of the EICS committee, I offer the following motion with regard to the enrollment limits for the two pilot virtual charter schools. I move that the State Board permit, in the best interest of the impacted North Carolina students, that the North Carolina Cyber Academy be permitted to increase its enrollment for the 2022-2023 year only to the 2,705 students that it had enrolled as of July 29th, 2022. And that the North Carolina Virtual Academy be permitted to increase its enrollment for the 2022-2023 school year only, the 3,425 students it had enrolled as of July 29th, 2022, on the condition that no new students may be enrolled in either school during the 2022-2023 academic year. In other words, in the event that a student withdraws for the 2022-2023 academic year, the school may not enroll another student as a replacement unless or until the enrollment of the school drops below that statutory cap of 2,592, after which that school will be permitted to retain enrollment up to the statutory cap.
This is State Treasurer Falwell. In the interest of students, I second that motion.
Thank you, Treasurer Falwell. I have one more addition to the comments. By operation of law, beginning with the 2023-2024 academic year, the North Carolina Cyber Academy and the North Carolina Virtual Academy may not enroll more than the statutory limit of 2,592 students without further action from the North Carolina General Assembly or the North Carolina State Board of
to ask any question, I'll ask for those questions at this time. Thank you very much. The next item that we discussed yesterday was an update on our rules process. The proposed amendment to 16 MCAC OCG -05108. Let me repeat that. That's the table. MCAC OCG 0508 Charter School Application and Review Process is before us to change the deadline for charter school applications from the last Friday in July to the last Friday in April. Board members, you'll remember that we took action on this last year. Once we took action, the procedure to get it into rules is forthcoming, and that is why it's before us as a business item, just to update us on the fact that the proper channels have been approached, and we're moving through the rules process in the hope that we can move that timeline by the end of the year from July back to April. We had two items for this one. One was request from Central Carolina Academy to request and implement the National School Lunch Program. This is really exciting because it is a partnership with local LEA to make sure that all students have access to healthy lunches. BICS 4 was a request from Arts Based Charter to implement a weighted lottery. And then finally, our discussion item for the month was the summary of the academic gain in our Restart School that is part of the annual report. And as previously mentioned by Chair Davis, I did want to give a shout out and special recognition to the three principals recognized as representatives for their particular regions as Principals of the Year. That's Patricia Brown from Jackson Middle in Guilford County, Keith Richardson from Knightdale in Wake County, and Allison Covington out of Pitt County. We were so excited about the work that they're doing, and super just excited to hear from them throughout the year because they are doing the hard work in the trenches for the Restart Schools. Mr. Chair, that concludes our report.
Thank you, Ms. White. I'll note from my colleagues that we will vote separately on EICS 1. Now, third, Dr. Oxendine, Chair of the Educator Standards and Practice Committee, for that report. Dr. Oxendine.
Thank you, Chair Davis. I'm Olivia Oxendine. I chair the ES&P, and joining me in that responsibility is Ms. Amy White. We have one action on first reading. This was dealt with yesterday. A couple of actions I'll find to it. In closed session, the State Board of Education approved the recommendations coming from the Extenuating Circumstances panel, and that was 2 yeses and one was not heard. So we acted on that in closed session. We also, in closed session, we approved 7 requests for limited licensure issuance. For action, Dr. Kim Evans presented, and this pertains to LICN 001, adding a teaching area to a clear license. I'm happy to say that we do have the definition of a clear license now in policy, and we also have in policy the several areas that whereby the additional area is not permitted. We also talked about Dr. Evans also spoke about the limited lifetime license. Districts do have the option of requiring that the teacher continue accruing CEUs and taking part in professional development, and that would be a condition of employment. It would not jeopardize the lifetime licensure. We also talked about several ways that the new areas could be added to licensure, and one of those areas, I want to talk about this area for just a minute because it had to do with the candidate or the educator, not a candidate at this point, but the educator could go back to school or enroll in some entity whereby they receive 24 hours of credit, and that, and again, whatever the area they desire to add to the license license, and that would suffice as long as the grade was a C or better. Vice Chair Duncan raised a question about the C or better, and I gave that some thought since we met yesterday. And I'm wondering if we want to, and I need to hear from you board members, if we want to pull that particular component out of the policy and study it a bit more. Because keep in mind, this individual will already have a license, perhaps has taught for several years, and the individual now wants to add an area to the license, to the base license. So is the C enough? I mean, should we raise it to a GPA, a grade point average, which could be 2.7? I'm just pulling something out of the hat. Or do we want to go up to a B? Or which would be a 3.0, most institutions? Or do we want to not even have any reference in that area to a 3-point average and just go with 24 semester hours and let the university, whatever is the university scale, grading scale, dictate other things about passing courses? So I'm open to suggestions. Or leave it as is. I just felt like it might be. I'm prolonging this, but I wanted to edge out some time to talk about it.
Yes, that caused it. My concern was it didn't have a limitation on how many hours you took in order to achieve 24 hours of reflect the C average. So my concern was, and I don't know how frequent an issue that is, so it was a question that sort of, to me, jumped off the page. On the other hand, if it's only taking 24 hours and meets the C average, that apparently meets the standard that's viewed by our staff. My worry was if you ended up having 36 hours to get 24, and the C average is everything. So that was my concern.
Very good. Other thoughts? Are you good with it as is then? We will leave it as is. This was a recommendation from Nancy. Yes.
Good with it as is.
Okay, very good. Anyone else? I see some nods, yes, so we will leave it as is. So that item is for action, and that concludes my report.
Thank you, Dr. Tonight. Next is our Government and Community Affairs Committee. Paul, would you like to give that, or you want me to? No questions. Thank you for the opportunity. That's up to debate. But we did have two really good items during the Government and Community Affairs. First was delighted to have Dr. Moldex back with us, and she did a fine job of presenting to us an update on the promising practices efforts. These are efforts that we're using to lift up the great work that's being done in schools across North Carolina, not only to celebrate them, but also to learn from them and to share that knowledge and transfer those good developments for students across our state. We look forward to future updates from Dr. Moldex on the continued work around elevating these promising practices. And then second was we received an update from Mr. Falkenberry around a recap of the legislative short session. It included both budgetary and non-budgetary items, and that will be helpful information as we look forward to the next session in the General Assembly. So next we have the Business Operations Committee, chaired by Vice Chair Duncan.
Thank you, Chair Davis. We had several items on action on the first read. Biz Op 1's approval of contracts over $500,000. And Dr. Amy Ryan reported with respect to the Voyager Sopris Learning Letters Training, which is an add-on to the already existing contract, focused on instruction for additional areas within the department, in particular charter schools. The second contract was Dr. Eileen Townsend, Chief of Insurance, Office of District Support, presenting the Assured Partners of North Carolina policy is a professional liability insurance policy for all North Carolina school employees. We were at the end of the 3-year period, and this was a negotiation for extension. Ultimately, an agreement was made for a 1.5% increase in cost for this extension for the following year. And that required a lot of work and had a good partnership with Assured Partners over the years. The recommendation is that we support that contract, which, as a reminder, was a little over $2.8 million. Then we had Dr. Michael Marr, who reported on behalf of the Division of Standards, Accountability, and Research with respect to the EVOS contract amendment for the Office of Early Learning with the SAS Institute. It's a limited contract because we already have a primary contract in place with EVOS with the SAS Institute. This contract is for additional services for the amount of $550,000. Our BizOp 2 item was presented by Dr. Lynn Harvey, our Senior Director of the Office of District Operations and School Nutrition. Fresh Food Vegetable Program allocation, which is approximately $6 million for the coming year. This is a happy annual event that's grown over the past several years. Given the supply chain shortages, this actually is even more important than it has been in the past. It also fosters important relationships and ideas, hopefully, that we're buying from a lot of local growers, local farmers for some of these nutritious fruits and vegetables, and further some partnerships within our community whenever we can carry it out in that way. And it is done a lot of that way. BizOp 3 is USDA Supply Chain Assistance Funds. This is a $26 million, very significant, very timely grant as a result of action that was taken in Congress. There have been significant supply chain disruptions during the end of the previous school year in school nutrition. Dr. Harvey had described for us a couple of months ago at our meeting in detail how serious and significant those were and how much we approached the present year with some degree of trepidation in terms of how much further we're going to have these supply chain interruptions. This funding is intended to assist with that, and so we're very pleased to be able to have that funding, and we received a report on how that was going to be allocated throughout the state from Dr. Harvey. BizOp 4 is public school salary manual modifications. Ms. Alexis Schaus presented this fascinating piece of information. It's a really fine condensed manner. Most of these are legislatively mandated, but some of them are board policy, and she went through each and every one of them for us. There were no questions. She did it in a way that we all understood what each of the changes were and why. So that was very grateful for that. It's an annual exercise we have to go through because there are almost always some changes, statutory if not other, so it's very helpful. But we also cleaned up some items that needed cleaned up here. BizOp 5 is also Ms. Schaus, state allotment policy manual modifications, and again, they're both statutory and some cleanup items on an annual basis that we review here. Again, Ms. Schaus went over all the items that were changed and did so in a way that made clear whether it was statutory or policy change or whether something simply become obsolete, which occurs again on occasion. So these are important, and we have, through the years, come up with policy manual modifications that we've had to make that have been important and sometimes even controversial. Seem to have controversial this year, and that's always good. So our next one is BizOp 6, which is an update to the state board policy FINO 000, which is professional certification of finance officers. Again, Ms. Schaus had the pleasure of presenting this very serious topic in terms of our chief financial officers around the state, where we were having difficulties keeping all those positions filled. We've been asked here to approve a policy change that provides some greater flexibility with respect to using interim chief financial officers. And the small group that's working on this is continuing to work on some further policy 7 is recommendations for Plasma Games competitive grant. This was a $2.5 million grant from Master Funds Office authorized by the legislature. It went out to all the districts. About $1.788 million was requested for 22 grants, all of which were approved. The process was quite detailed. Dr. Charles Hankin, who presented this item, went through the process of how these grant requests were reviewed and ultimately reviewed the awarding of the grants for this particular program. BizOp 8 is an ESSER 3 National Board for Professional Teaching Standards Certification Fee Reimbursement Program, which Ms. Toya Kimbrough presented to us and went through for all the districts what was necessary to do in order to make an application for both reimbursement of future certification and fee reimbursement program and provide the information for all the districts that had shown interest and applied and provide information about those districts who will be receiving that funding for around the state. And all the funding that had been allocated for that will be used. Obviously, North Carolina has been a state leader in teacher standard certification, and Ms. Kimbrough reflected appropriately the pride that she has for the state and being a leader in that area. BizOp 9 is 21st Century Community Learning Centers appeal, and I'm going to call on our General Counsel, Allison Schaefer, to review the recommendation of the BizOp committee that consisted of myself, Mr. Hall, Mr. Blackburn, and the recommendations that arose after that committee meeting with the representatives making the appeals for the two grantees.
So this arises out of a June 2022 recommendation from the Office of Federal Programs to terminate two 21st Century grants to fund after-school programs. Appeals were requested to the committee, to the BizOp committee from both schools to contest those recommendations. The committee voted to recommend to the state board. The committee hearing was held on Friday, July 29, and at that meeting, this committee voted to recommend to the state board the following actions. And these are the recommendations that are now before the board from the BizOp committee Friday hearings. 1, to accept DPI's recommendation to terminate the grant of the Mallard Creek Learning Center because of failure to maintain minimum enrollment requirements and financial concerns. And number 2, to decline the recommendation to terminate the grant of the entity, A Safe Place to Learn and Grow, provided that the school meet the following conditions. 1, lower the grant amount of students served to 50 from 65. 50 is the statutory minimum, and the concern was with the Safe Place to Learn and Grow, they did not have enough enrollment in the prior year. Also, to acquire adequate space for the students in the program, and 3rd, to ensure that it meets the requirements for serving at least 50 students during the 2022-23 academic year for at least 45 hours per semester, as required by the grant terms.
Thank you, Ms. Schaefer. Just for further clarification, by lowering from 65 to 50, the amount of grant that would go with that particular 21st Century grant would be reduced in a proportionate amount. So that's the recommendations of this meeting to come before the board. I would pause if any comments or discussion or questions about that.
Last year, I do have an issue, a provision of BizOp 4 that I feel like it needs mentioning. And I realize that it's statutory and does not speak to this board, but there is a provision in there that will alter school principal salaries effective January 1st based on a singular year of data. There are teachers that are going to be paid, principals that will be paid at the meets or exceeds level based on historical data pre-COVID that stand to have a pay cut on this data of $15,000 depending on eligible changes. So I think it is worth mentioning that I think we still have a time to ask our legislators to review that and consider a change before that becomes effective.
Appreciate your highlight of that fact, and I know it is a concern that has been expressed. As you say, it's statutorily mandated. That's the reason it's before us for a vote in this way today.
Vice Chair Duncan. That concludes our committee reports and comments. Next up is the Chair's report, and I have two items to share. One concerns a recent announcement that on August 15th, 2022, Governor Cooper will be lifting the state of emergency order dating back to the early stages of the COVID-19 pandemic in 2020. Provisions were included in the recently passed budget that addressed public health officials' ability to address the pandemic, including changes to ensure flexibility for the State Department of Health and Human Services as they continue to respond to the virus. This board will continue to monitor the recommendations from our colleagues in the Department of Health and Human Services moving forward, and we appreciate the close partnership between local public health officials and offices and our school districts and charter schools, and effectively keeping our students and staff safe during this time. Any questions on that? Second item concerns a matter of great importance to this board and the superintendent and department, and that concerns our ongoing commitment to support our teachers and students, particularly in ensuring that our students have an effective teacher in every classroom across our state. As has been previously reported, we're engaged in work to affect that change through improvements to our licensure system. And the superintendent and I would like to share the following comments on that matter. So, we live in a world that's constantly changing, and our students' needs continue to grow exponentially, as do the expectations and requirements placed upon our students to become contributing and productive citizens in what is often a brutally competitive global environment. At the same time, our teachers are quite weary after 2 years of the pandemic and from ever-increasing responsibilities, sometimes combined with corresponding decreases in supports, all of which inhibits their ability to effectively educate their students. Moreover, not enough teachers are entering or staying in the profession for a variety of reasons, particularly teachers with diverse backgrounds, skills, and experiences. Teacher vacancies are soaring in schools across our state, while enrollment in our colleges of education has fallen over the last few years. In short, our state is in a teaching crisis that's having a significant negative impact on today's students, and if not corrected, will damage our state for generations to come. So it's no coincidence that this board's strategic plan, the Department of Public Instruction's North Star, and the Court Order Comprehensive Remedial Plan all focus on an intentional commitment to creating a system of teacher recruitment and ongoing support that ensures all students have access to excellent teachers. Along with a competitive compensation system, one of the most significant systemic changes that we must make to correct this downward spiral and to deliver on this commitment is in our licensure system. Licensure is the key leverage point because it impacts nearly every aspect of our teacher's career: their preparation, their development, their advancement, their reward, and yes, their compensation. In short, licensure demonstrates how we value the teaching profession. Today, licensure is a too frequent barrier to teachers entering and staying in the profession. The current licensure system does not contribute to a teacher's growth and development, but often limits the opportunity for students to have an effective teacher. Each month, including this one, the State Board hears of the challenges that teachers face with obtaining and keeping their license. Superintendents often share with us that they have highly effective teachers that cannot stay in the profession due to licensure requirements. Based on this continuous stream of feedback from teachers and educators, this board determined that redesigning our licensure system is essential in delivering a sound basic education for all students. North Carolina is not alone in this endeavor. Many of our sister states are also pursuing systemic changes to attract and retain talented teachers. Recently, our state, as a member of the Southern Regional Education Board, leveraged expertise from other states and across our own. As as thought partners in designing potential solutions to this challenge. The vision is quite simple. Increase access to effective educators for all North Carolina students through a more effective licensure system that better supports teachers throughout their careers, both financially and professionally, and rewards teachers for creating better outcomes for our students. In short, we believe this initiative will recruit great teachers in increasing numbers and keep them in the classroom, reform the licensure process to eliminate barriers and time delays, and increase levels of professional supports and opportunities for advancement for our teachers within their careers. And in reforming the licensure system, we will increase opportunities for candidate teachers to enter the profession, develop their skills, and become fully licensed. We'll also support teachers throughout their career, providing opportunities for increased responsibility to make greater contributions to their students' education, to make greater contributions to their profession, and be rewarded monetarily without having to leave the classroom and move into administration. Superintendent.
Thank you, Chair Davis. Before I recap the work that's underway, I'd like to reiterate that this process isn't close to being complete. And we continue to be open, welcoming, and encouraging of your solutions for improvement. So here's what has occurred. The State Board of Education tasked the Professional Educator Preparation Standards Committee, or PEPSI, with developing a draft licensure model. Now, PEPSI is a body that follows open meeting laws. PEPSI has conducted this work during their meetings, which have been formally noticed, live streamed, and open to the public to allow for feedback. Using decades of feedback from teachers and education leaders, the work of PEPSI's 4 subcommittees combined to produce a first draft. With subsequent PEPSI meetings came further iterations. Since presenting their first draft to the State Board of Education in March for its review, listening sessions have been held with teachers in all 8 education regions to allow our stakeholders to offer their opinions on various aspects of the model and to allow DPI staff to provide that stakeholder feedback to the relevant PEPSI subcommittees. At this time, thousands of teachers have weighed in on various aspects of the draft model. Further feedback continues to be encouraged for submission online through an email channel as well. As a result of that feedback provided in person, online, and through the email channel, PEPSI subcommittees are intaking that feedback and using it to make recommendations for a final model, which will come back before the State Board of Education later this fall. At that time, the State Board will have the option to accept PEPSI's recommendation or refer it back to PEPSI for additional modifications. Once the Board approves a final model, it can then send the recommendation to the General Assembly for consideration in the long session, which begins in January of 2023 and typically lasts until July. We share this process to show how thorough it is, to show how open it's been, to show our commitment to seeking feedback and our desire to improve the final product. We share this to remind you again that we seek solutions to the draft model. The Board has not voted. We certainly are not implementing anything. This is a process that will take time.
It's entirely likely that the model that we vote on this fall may be a preliminary final model with further iterations for improvement as we gather feedback from teachers and other stakeholders. We also recognize that change is difficult, especially in a climate in which trust and mutual understanding is low. So we understand how, unfortunately, there's much misunderstanding about our work and the current conceptual model. Regardless, it's important that this misinformation be corrected, including the following 5 points. First, we do need to overhaul our licensure process in the state. The current public discourse has not adequately highlighted the barriers that the licensure system creates for our current and future teachers, which adversely impacts our student outcomes. The current licensure system provides few supports to teachers in their early years, little assistance in developing their teaching skills and expertise, and no opportunity to increase their compensation. In fact, today's licensure system inhibits too many teachers from staying in the profession, in our judgment. The current licensure system does not contribute to a teacher's growth and development as a professional, but often limits the opportunity for students to have an effective teacher. As stated earlier, each month, this board hears of the challenges that teachers face with getting or keeping their license. Superintendents often share that they have highly effective teachers who cannot stay in the profession. Conversely, the UNC Educator Preparation Dashboard shows that students with teachers who have not engaged in rigorous, high-quality teacher preparation programs have lesser outcomes than their counterparts who do. Unfortunately, our low-wealth counties have a disproportionate number of these teachers. So the current conceptual model that contains many solutions to reduce those barriers, including rethinking the use of licensure exams that show little positive impact on student outcomes.
Point 2 is that the draft model in consideration would allow for teachers to advance through their career while remaining in the classroom and demonstrating how they are effectively leading, teaching, and guiding students. Most professions have clear career pathways, opportunities for advancement, and opportunities to progressively earn more based on impact. We want teachers to have these same opportunities for growth and impact, and for pay. They deserve the chance to climb the ladder without having to leave the classroom for administration. The current draft would allow teachers to move into more advanced levels of licensure by demonstrating their skills. Teachers will choose how they demonstrate their impact on the students they teach, and the conceptual model will provide a menu of options. This means that if one of the options does not accurately reflect how students improve during the school year, teachers will have the ability to select another measurement that does. In all cases throughout the proposal, the options available for teachers to advance are grounded in research that indicates those practices are associated with increased student learning. As it currently stands, teachers can advance either through student progress on state exams or alternative measures like principal observation, student surveys, advanced teacher reviews, or any other measures that we may discover in the process of completing the draft proposal. In this draft proposal, student academic growth can be used in any license level as evidence of teacher effectiveness and for advancement to the next level. But in no case is growth or student testing the only option for advancement. I'm going to say this again for emphasis. Neither student testing nor student academic growth, also known as EVAS, is a required pathway to advancement. For each level of licensure, there are other options for a teacher to advance outside of testing. And while we are on the topic of EVAS, I'd like to make a very important distinction of what EVAS is measuring. The student outcomes that are one part of the proposal is based on student academic growth, which measures the degree of academic advancement, regardless of the starting point that a student makes over an academic year. There is an important distinction between growth and proficiency. So I want to make sure that I say that clearly. EVAS does not mean achievement or proficiency.
So the third point is that the conceptual model and consideration does not threaten to withhold raises from teachers. So the conceptual model contemplates that teachers would be eligible for consistent raises throughout their career. It provides the opportunity for teachers to regularly increase their salary throughout their career, and it sets up the conditions under which teachers can do that if they choose. In fact, in lieu of withholding pay raises, the conceptual model actually opens multiple ways, not an option for teachers today for increasing their compensation. It creates far more opportunities than exist today. A key piece of the conceptual model is still in design and open to constructive feedback. which is to determine these multiple methods for advancement, as the superintendent described. One thing that is certain, relying only on student test results is insufficient to meet our goals for teacher support and advancement for all teachers. Whatever alternative methods that ultimately become part of the licensure system will be developed with teacher and educator input and must withstand field testing before implementing broadly. As the committee worked through what these methods could look like, we've aimed to do both broad and encompassing, but in the same regard, it must be rigorous for the sake of our students.
Point 4. This draft model in consideration does not threaten to revoke a teacher's license. The goal in reform is not to revoke licenses. The goal with this reform process is to ensure that our students are growing academically and that they are learning. The goal of this process is to ensure that every student has access to a highly qualified and excellent teacher. This is the essence of the comprehensive remedial plan. This is the essence of Operation Polaris. This is the basis of the North Carolina State Board of Education's goal to increase educator preparedness to meet the needs of every student by 2025. This is about meeting the needs of our students, every student. It's about making sure students get what they need. What this proposal does is say that teachers must demonstrate effectiveness for 3 years within 2 5-year renewal periods. This does not propose an annual renewal cycle. This proposes a 5-year span, and it provides teachers multiple attempts to demonstrate their effectiveness during this time period. And it even builds in opportunities for support from colleagues should a teacher want guidance.
And finally, the last point concerns about, quote, merit pay. We hear this effort being referred to as merit pay. That is, pay based solely on student testing. To be clear, that's not what this is about. Since only a minority of our teachers teach in areas with standard student test data, there simply is not enough tested subjects to base compensation on student testing. However, there are countless teachers and all years of experience across our state who today are creating positive outcomes for their students and who are not being sufficiently recognized, learned from, or rewarded for their great work. Far from adding additional burdens on our teachers, we seek to develop with teachers new ways to reliably identify this great work, to learn from it, and to replicate it, and to reward teachers for this work in a non-competitive, collaborative way. Without this new licensure system, teachers will be denied these opportunities. We believe our teachers who create positive outcomes for our students should be recognized, learned from, and rewarded. Moreover,
I've spoken with many teachers personally about this proposal now. And one observation that I've made is that when teachers look at this plan, the first thing they want to know is, where do I fit into this plan? And that's fair. That is to be expected. That's exactly what I would have done if I had seen this plan when I was still in the classroom. But the truth is that we are trying to solve for a challenge that is bigger than those who are in the profession in this moment. This is a challenge that needs solving in the long term. Recruiting studies show that Gen Z and millennials want jobs that allow them to advance not by years of experience, but by demonstrated outcomes. They want a pathway to advancement, and they do not plan to stay in the same job for more than 5 years at a time. They want mentorship and support. We already know that by and large, millennials do not go into education and teaching, and that pay is only one piece of the reason why. So I have 2 anecdotes that I would like to share to illustrate the challenges before us. The first one is this. Last week, I had the pleasure of meeting one of our NCDPI interns. She grew up in one of our North Carolina cities and is a graduate of a public high school in North Carolina. She enrolled in a UNC system university University's educator prep program right after high school because she wanted to be a teacher. But she told me that she did this knowing that she was only going to stay in the classroom for about 5 years before turning her talents to something else. She took her first teaching job in her hometown urban district and was immediately thrilled by the ongoing support she received by no less than 3 mentor teachers. She loved her school, and by the end of her 3rd year of teaching, her EBOS, or student growth data, was so good that she began receiving emails from her district asking if she wanted to go across town to a low-performing school and mentor other teachers. But she declined because she didn't want to leave the support that she knew she already had at her current school. Then, just as planned, she left after her 5th year of teaching and enrolled in a master's program in ed policy. This young woman wants a career path that will allow her to advance on her terms, and she doesn't see that path forward in our current system. Second, last weekend I received an email from an Army veteran wanting to offer a suggestion to our teacher shortage. This is a 20-year veteran. He writes, I retired from the Army in 2020 and have served as a JROTC instructor before the pandemic, a teacher's assistant for a virtual academy, a substitute teacher for various grade levels, and a permanent substitute teacher in intellectual disabilities mild grades 3 to 5 class. I am currently seeking a dual degree in elementary education and a special education degree from Western Governors University. However, as of right now, I only have an associate degree, so I cannot get hired to fill any of these shortages. But as a soldier officer and leader in the Army, I was a teacher, and I have taught everything from weapons to foreign language, orbital mechanics, and complex equations to support the electromagnetic spectrum and cyber operations in the Army. I have also taught cultural diversity, values, and religions of the world. There are many people out there just like me with the passion and experience to help fill these shortages, but are missing the degree portion. I would love to have a more extended discussion with you or your staff to see if this could be a viable solution going into the 2022-23 school year. I hope all is well, and thank you for taking time to listen to all that. If we were to implement a version of the model we are considering right now, Mr. Courtwright, who gave me permission to share this email, would have a place on the licensure continuum. He could be employed at a school as an apprentice teacher, earning a salary rather than an hourly wage as a teacher's assistant, and could work while pursuing his teaching degree online. And this is a perfect example of how we can address teacher shortages in our less populated counties. It's time to shed legacy thinking and move towards solutions that address the future, not the past.
So as we've shared, the current conceptual model is a work in progress. Continued design work will require multiple phases over many years, including proof of concept and field testing, as we take a test and learn approach to refining the model, determining and testing specific components. Following the design phase, we envision an implementation period, which will also take many years. Both will include opportunities for teachers to weigh in and contribute to building the final system. And to take advantage of those opportunities now, the email option that the superintendent mentioned is pathways.feedback@dpi.nc.gov. We also envision future focus groups. We'll meet face-to-face with teachers, stakeholders. Please continue to send your feedback to us, members of the board, and the superintendent. I appreciate every letter and email, whether it's in favor of or opposed to this endeavor. We just want to make sure that you have accurate information informing those opinions, but we welcome your input. We want it. We need your ideas on how to make this work better. And then finally, this effort is just one of the many ways we're striving to elevate student achievement, the academic achievement of all North Carolina students, which is the center of all our efforts. The largest audience impacted by this work are students is the very audience that we will engage with and seek their input. They're the ones that stand to benefit the most from this support process. And while the current licensure system is a detriment to our students and teachers, North Carolina students deserve a system that rewards teachers who can best help them learn. We must do better. So we invite you to join in this worthy endeavor. Thank you. Open the floor now for any comments or questions from my colleagues on this topic. But perhaps about
Yes, where is this work currently? I mean, what is the status of it?
it still remains in Pepsi, and the subcommittees are forming their final recommendations, and we anticipate getting an update from PEPS likely in September.
And Superintendent Truitt, your example that you shared in the email, I believe I don't have all of the licensure policies committed to memory. When I retire, I'll do that. But I do want to, I think you need to check with troops to teachers, because I think that is all, unless we have done something to change that policy, or I don't think we rescinded it. I think that's an avenue for, and that military person would not have to enter into the profession as an apprentice.
So troops to teachers has been sunsetted, so it's not around any longer, although we are looking to see if we can reinvigorate the program at DPI. But regardless, because this person does not have a 4-year degree right now, he could not begin teaching. If he were a veteran who had been an officer and already had a 4-year degree, he would be able to begin teaching without a license right away. He would have 3 years to complete the license.
I have sat in on a few of the meetings, the committee meetings, not as many as I probably should have, but several. And one of the things, if you're open to suggestion, one of the things I think is needed, and very clear, laid out, you can put them in columns, it doesn't matter. We need to spell out very clearly what we're trying to fix with the licensure system. You know, what is it? I think I heard you probably allude to that a little bit in your dual presentations. But that needs to be very clearly spelled out. I think what's wrong with the system is it just isn't clear enough. There are too many terms in it, there are too many caveats, and too many if this doesn't happen, this happens, or if this happens, this happens. So I think it's a matter of clear. If this model is going to make it a more streamlined approach, an approach that a novice teacher can explain, a first-year teacher can explain to another teacher, a mentor can explain to his or her classroom teacher, I think that should be the aim. I know the issue that we're trying to combat and diminish altogether, and I agree with you, this approach should happen is the merit pay piece of it. But I think if we can lay out in clear terms what we're trying to fix, that would help.
Well, thank you. I appreciate that feedback. I think you're right. We need to continue to clarify what the problem is. Some people have personally experienced the problem, others less so. So we need to continue to clarify the problem we're seeking to address, as well as the goal.
And then what will be eliminated? Will we eliminate the residence model, for instance? Will this model eliminate that? Will that elementary zone? But what will it clear out of the current system?
And of course, because this proposal will roll through your committee, you'll have a front row seat.
That's what I'm speaking of.
Any other comments? Mr. Hall.
Thank you. Justice, digital troops. It's the program is adolescents. The program itself needs to be revisited. That's the issue there. Good gracious. I mean, you're talking about a person that commanded 5,000 troops that moved equipment from point A to point B and got everything there. We have practically in plan. You know what I'm saying? We are missing out. And they should not have to go back through a total program. Remember now, we did change superintendents. Remember that. So it can be done. And yes, teachers need to be paid and compensated in a different fashion and licensed. And you are asking for that. Being right here,
teachers to voice their opinions in a safe and open way, where they can express their concerns and we can see what's been going on with those concerns with the changes in the drafts. And that's been really helpful for teachers. As a mother, I'm grateful for the opportunity to make more money. If something happened to my sweet husband, it would be very difficult for me to support my family of 3 children on my teacher salary. And so that opportunity to grow gives me hope so that I don't have to use my administrative license, which is, by the way, the only reason why I went to graduate school and went into debt was so that if something ever happened to my sweet husband, that I could afford to pay for my children to survive and be okay. And the fact that teachers have to make those choices and have to go into debt in order to be able to support their families more is really sad. And the great teachers are leaving the classroom because they're not being compensated enough for the work that they do. So I'm very excited for this opportunity to stay in the classroom and continue the work for the children, because that's what your good teachers want to do. They want to still work with the children. They don't want to work with you adults. They want to stay with the kids. So help us do that. I'm so grateful for that opportunity and that you've been listening. So thank you.
Thank you. We look forward to your suggestions on how to make it better.
Yes. Hey guys, we're ready. Right, team?
Look out be careful what you ask for. Right. Thank you so much. Anything else? Okay. So this concludes our chair's report. Assume there is no new business. Hearing none, we'll now move to voting on any items requiring action from the committee reports. A thorough discussion and report was provided on each item, including any prospective consent items. And a reminder that any item on the consent agenda is primarily not complex and may have come to the board for discussion the previous month. I note also that board members have seen the consent agenda items for this week. We will vote separately on the ICS 1, but at this time I ask if there's a request. I ask for a motion. Excuse me. At this time I ask if there's a request for remove any other item from our proposed agenda. Hearing none, I ask for a motion to approve the following: the July 7th, 2022 meeting minutes, SLA 1 and 2, EICS 2 and 3, ESMP 1 and 2, BizOp 1 through 10, and the IPL and ILT licensure approvals that were considered last evening in closed session. Is there a motion?
So moved as Treasurer Falwell.
Motion for the treasurer, second by Dr. Oxendine. Any discussion on this motion? Dr. Petrie-Martin.
Dr. Oxendine.
Yes.
Ms. Kamnitz. Mr. Keenan. Mr. Hall.
Yes.
Dr. Tipton-Rogers.
Yes.
Ms. White.
Yes.
Mr. Blackburn.
Yes.
Mr. Ford.
Yes.
Treasurer Falwell.
Yes.
Lieutenant Governor Robinson.
Yes.
Vice Chair Duncan.
Yes.
Chairman Davis.
Yes. Motion carries. We have one remaining item on our action agenda, and that concerns EICS 1. What is before us is the motion presented by Ms. White concerning this matter. Is there any, we just ask, not to restate, but would you make the motion again, Ms. White?
Certainly, Chair Davis. So the motion before us today is to, in the best interest of the impacted North Carolina students, that the North Carolina Cyber Academy be committed to increase its enrollment for this coming year, 2022-2023 only, to the 2,705 students that it had enrolled as of July 29th, 2022. And then secondly, that the North Carolina Virtual Academy be committed to increase its enrollment for this year only, 2022-2023, the 3,425 students that it had enrolled as of July 29th, 2022. On the condition that no new students may
seconded that motion. Is there any discussion on this motion before voting? Hearing none, Dr. Petrie Martin.
Dr. Oxendine.
Yes.
Ms. Kamenetz. Mr. Keenan. Mr. Hall.
Yes.
Dr. Tipton Rogers.
Yes.
Ms. White.
Yes.
Mr. Blackburn.
Yes.
Mr. Ford.
Yes.
Treasurer Falwell.
Yes.
Lieutenant Governor Robinson.
Yes.
Vice Chair Duncan.
No.
Chair Davis.
Yes. Motion carries. Colleagues, this concludes our work for today. I will remind you that our next meeting is August 30th and September 1st. It includes our planning and work session. So please plan to attend in person for a productive and collaborative working session that I know Dr. Petrie is planning for.
Mr. Chairman.
Yes, Treasurer.
Thank you. I have always gotten notices of our meetings to get them on my calendar, and for some reason it fell through the cracks this time, so somebody can double check our email addresses. And lastly, I'd like for you to consider adjourning our meeting in honor of Wayne County Deputy Matt Fishman, who lost his life in the line of duty this week.
Yes, absolutely. We will adjourn it in honor of that final Carolina. Thank you, Treasurer. Suppose that you might want to make the motion for us to adjourn.
Yes.
Motion by the Treasurer. Is there a second? Second by Mr. Hall. Dr. Petrie Martin.
Dr. Oxendine.
Yes.
Ms. Kamenetz. Mr. Keenan.
Yes.
Mr. Hall.
Yes.
Dr. Tipton Rogers.
Yes.
Ms. White.
Yes.
Mr. Blackburn.
Yes.
Mr. Ford.
Yes.
Treasurer Falwell.
Yes.
Lieutenant Governor Robinson.
Yes.
Vice Chair Duncan.
Yes.
And Chair Davis.
Yes. We are adjourned. Have a good day.